All right, we're back with the Paint Trips podcast. We're here with Jesse. Jesse, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I really appreciate you coming out, man, and bringing some of your cool artwork. Do you want to like talk about? Is there a specific theme to like the pieces? At least this one.
Well, a lot of the pieces that I'm working on right here, they're all like kind of just free form.
Mm-hmm.
I never really like playing any of these out with my line work and stuff, so they kind of just all develop very organically.
Oh wow.
The ones that I'm working on right here too, they're in different stages, where one is just the line work at the moment, and I actually showed this piece before it was complete, just the black and white line,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't too happy with it, and then I started experimenting with just the black and white and then adding the layers of color and then going back and strengthening the lines again.
Yeah.
So I mean, the theme with them too, like most of my little characters that I create
Mm-hmm.
are kind of just like built up out of all these like little different pieces. Or like an overall theme of being built out of like one's environment.
Yeah, dude, this looks like a lot of fun as you're creating it. Like I would have fun just watching you trying to create this, because like you said, it's free form. Like you probably move across the canvas at various areas. Like you don't start from here and go this way. Like you'll start from different areas, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They all kind of develop out of the eyes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's like your starting point.
Mm-hmm. And then a lot of them, you'll see they develop like multiple eyes in different sections.
Mm-hmm.
And then based on whichever set of eyes you choose to link with like the nose and the mouth in the composition, it creates a different emotional character.
Oh wow,
you
dude.
know, so even on top of the ideology that we're shaped by our environment or our experiences, we also have different faces or different ranges of our emotions. So it makes the characters a little bit more living in that fashion.
Mm-hmm. And you're definitely going, as you're going, what are you thinking about, man? Like I know you're going through emotions, but are you listening to music? Is something outside of your environment affecting you, or?
Yeah, I usually listen to some music.
Okay.
Or I'll have like something on the television, and then a lot of the pieces, like especially larger paintings,
Mm-hmm.
they'll kind of get like little tidbits of like that moment in time. Like I'll throw like a little quote in there.
Oh,
or like one of
okay.
my paintings had like a little piece of like a song from Nirvana or something.
Dope. And do you hide stuff in this?
Most of the time,
yeah. Dude, that's awesome. Like I like when artists like hide stuff, and if you find it, it's dope. Like it's not. It's hidden, and you know the artist usually doesn't tell you where it's at. But
it's also an excuse too, because they said if like say somebody's in like a gallery viewing your stuff, if you can hold their attention for 6 seconds, then you've kind of like won, because people will kind of like go look at something for like under 6 seconds and then they'll move on to the next piece.
Yeah.
If you get them like six and more, you're usually doing pretty good. So those little hidden things kind of help people, like, because then they're like, look at something. They're like, whoa, wait, hold on a second. And then they go back. They want to be like, oh, wow, this thing I didn't notice, this thing. And then it keeps them at your piece a little longer. And then they really get engaged in it. And I think that's powerful. And
they do the double take.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely your work like does the double take easily. You're like, wait, what? What am I looking at? Especially because if you shift this, it starts to look a little different. Right? There's certain areas like I'm this is like a skull, like a owl skull, right? Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, you're good.
Owl skull, and then I think I see another skull here.
Lots of death in the pieces.
Yeah,
and I always get that complaint from my parents.
Really?
Oh, you have to put skulls in everything.
Cause they're sick. Why wouldn't you put skulls?
They're awesome.
Yeah. That's awesome, dude. And what medium do you work with primarily?
Well, the pieces that I have here today are just like paint markers and some acrylic, and then I just kind of build them layer wise. But a lot of my regular paintings are a little too big for the show today, are usually built up out of like layers of collage, all types of different paints. I'll do like some spray paint layers, then I'll go in. The latest piece, I think I sent you an image of it too, is about 5.5 by 6 feet.
I believe so.
Yeah, it had like a kind of a blue background, but anyways, it was built of like 800 layers.
Shit.
Yeah, and it was like collaged material, all sorts of stuff, and like those little snapshots of like everything. Like I had some like letters that people sent me and things like that. Just all kind
you
of
just started.
you know?
Dope, dude. Hell yeah.
Build it up, and then I'll tear through those layers, so you get like a real like kind of broken effect. But I was like really moved, like by different things that I saw when I moved to California for the first time.
Oh, where are you from? Where are you from, man?
Hartford, Connecticut.
Connecticut. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. How long you been here then?
I've been here about at this point in time 7 years. I moved here in 2013.
Wow, dude.
Yeah. But I originally came to California in 2008 for college.
Oh, okay. You went to college out here. Where'd you go?
I went to SFAI.
AI.
San Francisco Art Institute.
Oh, dude, really?
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. But
that's dope.
When I saw like on the street something that we didn't really have, like, you know, I say Hartford because most people don't know where Windsor, Connecticut is, but it's 10 minutes out of Hartford. But in Windsor, it's kind of more suburban, you know. There's not a lot of, and even Hartford, it's a city, but it's not a big city like LA or San Francisco. And I remember like being in San Francisco and seeing just like people posting bills everywhere, right? You know, and then you get layers of like people doing graffiti over where they've posted bills.
Yeah.
And then you see the city comes and tears the bills down, and there's like little fragments of graffiti. Then there's little fragments of like the show bills, and then there's fragments of like where they tried to paint over it.
Like where the construction areas are?
Yeah.
And like the hallways?
Yeah. And it gets really cool. I love that like layering effect where it's like people put something up, it's torn away, somebody tries to repaint it, then people put more stuff on top.
It's like a story. Like every layer has like a story to tell. Like at this point, this show, and it's definitely dope to watch. And that's what inspired you to create this stuff?
Yeah, kind of especially with the larger paintings with the layers and layers, and then cutting through layers and then putting things back over those cuts, and
spray paint and acrylic, and oh man.
And then I love two colors that are almost the same that are like placed on top of each other,
and they just subtle. They have that subtle. You can see it.
Yeah, when somebody like goes and tags up a building, and then the owner gets somebody to paint it, but it's just slightly the wrong color.
Yeah, it's like an off eggshell white or something.
I like love that for some reason. So you'll see that in a lot of the pieces too, where it's like two colors that are like really close, and it's like meant to like cover a section, but it's not enough, and a little bit of that will remain. It's fun,
dude. It sounds like fun. Like just even trying to imagine your process, dude, sounds like fun. Just. Do you have a studio you're working off of, or like
I just have a home studio?
Okay, dude. How are you pretty clean with your stuff, or like you're like me, where like everything's kind of stacked up together and
it gets a little stacked.
It gets a little chaotic, controlled chaos.
But like you, I do like to work on like 10 paintings at the same time.
You have to, man. I always tell people when they come in here, I tell them like. I do it because of the oil, but honestly, it's a good thing to do if you're disciplined to finish them. Because sometimes you don't finish them, and that's me. Like it's taking me a while to like make sure I fucking finish them, you know, or else I sit on them and I don't come back. I just keep starting new ones, and I keep starting new ones, and it's I have to make sure to finish what I got before I start new ones. I got to set a cap.
It's fun because like. Those first like few hours of working on a new piece or like those like everything goes and like nothing applies and you're just like experimenting and having fun, and then when you get to like the like third day of working on a piece, it's like okay, now it's like the academic stuff, like I have to break down and be like okay, now I have to do technically start like shaping everything, and it's not as fun.
I think it's easier to get into what did Hugo say the other day, the flow state when it's a new piece, because like you're running out through ideas and you're like okay, I'm gonna lay it out like this, blah blah blah, and then when it's all out there, that adjusting is where it starts to like no, now I gotta do all this stuff to
have to buckle down and actually get it finished.
I definitely do that a lot, but sometimes like you feel like if you don't get the idea out, it's gonna be gone. It's gonna be gone, you're gonna forget it, or you're never gonna get to it, or it's gonna change. And you don't want it to change. You want to kind of see how it's gonna look.
And something I've noticed too is like sometimes the first idea might be the best idea.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. You get it like kind of, it's unchained and unlike, it's real raw, and you kind of like put it out there, and then if you sit on it too long, then it just morphs into like a gray zone, you know?
Yeah. And how long have you been doing murals, man? Did you always paint out in Connecticut? Did you?
Yeah.
Did you know about graffiti out there? Like, did you guys have graffiti out there?
Yeah, but not as much of a scene as like LA, of course.
Okay, but what was over there? Like trains, like
no,
train yards or just normal buildings and stuff.
Electrical boxes were pretty big. Oh, okay. Yeah, but the trains were pretty hard to get to. I didn't really mess with it too much. I did some like just like wheat pasting for a little bit.
Yeah,
but it's hard for people not to like recognize your stuff after doing that.
Is it a small city?
Yeah. Hartford's pretty small, especially like everything's small in comparison to LA. But you know, the thing is back east, even if you look at like something like New York, which is New York City is one of like the biggest cities we have for sure. You know, even though it's massive, everything's built really tall. Mm-hmm. Everything's built up in very like condensed areas, whereas out here like everything's so spread. Yeah, you have to hit the freeway if you're gonna go anywhere. Yeah, that's the and traffic's bad. Like traffic's always like everybody's trying to go everywhere, and it's like, what the fuck, how many people are actually here? Yeah, but that was one thing I did notice.
So out there you didn't do any murals,
I did a couple.
Oh, really?
They were all like murals for friends, stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Not until recent was I started doing the like murals for businesses and some larger events and things like that.
That's dope, dude. And do you for murals you use all spray paint, or you use a mixture of spray paint and acrylic, or what's your house paint?
It's been a mix.
A mix, yeah.
House paint's always kind of like a staple, because I definitely prefer like the brush to the spray can.
Yeah, more control, right?
Yeah, a little more control, a little more like what I'm used to. But spray paint does get some really great effects, especially with like the fading flares. And getting all sorts of like the flares.
The flares, like dude. I love those flares, man. Mm-hmm. There's something so like aesthetically pleasing of seeing that to the clean line. And when people I've seen this muralist who does like animals, but with just flares, and you can identify each flare, and he does like animals, like lions or whatever, but it could just be one color. But the way he places his flares, there's something very mapped out about it, and it's just like, whoa, like how do you even think of that? Yeah, but I like flares, man.
It's also really cool too when it's kind of mixed with just traditional painting, and you kind of get like a mix between like the little like spots.
Yeah,
and you get like these special little textures, the flares, things like that, and then they're on top of something that's like either like photorealistic or just kind of breaking across a composition.
Yeah, oh, dude, it's really fun. When things break across a composition, but just right. Man, I love art, dude. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Like I get so this is why I like doing this stuff and like talking to artists, man. Like I get so excited to like bounce ideas and bounce like likes and dislikes in art with artists, man. Like, you can only talk. Like I have a lot of friends and stuff, and it's nice. They have certain interests. I have certain interests, but sometimes like you can't really talk in depth to them about art, because you'll feel like you bore them because they don't, they probably just be nice and like.
Well, it's like anyone geeking out on anything.
Yeah.
If I'm like, oh, I love, music so much or something like that, and I start going into a bunch of details with like, people who aren't that into music, or they like music but they're not in love with it,
then they don't understand certain parts of it.
Don't contribute as much because it's not really their forte.
Yeah, man. That's why I'm not even like, because people ask me sometimes like, oh, like it'd be cool to get more people to watch and stuff. And I was like, yeah, it'd be dope, but like I'm having fun just doing them, just spending time with people and like talking. Like every time I go back and I listen to like a different episode, and I keep in mind I'm doing the conversation, and there's things I'm like, oh shit, we did talk about that. And I go back and I'm like, oh man, that was a good little like segment or little conversation. I can't believe like I already forgot it, or like I didn't catch the importance of it at that time.
Yeah, it's got to be cool to like be able to go back and recap on some of the ideas that come through here.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's that's actually what I'm doing. There's like these videos I'm releasing. I call them micro doses.
Okay.
And they're just little 10-minute segments from different podcasts that I've already released. But it's like just so it's the focus is whatever the conversation is.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So I've been trying to do that a little more often, man. But you were telling me you had a show?
Oh yeah. At the Hive Gallery.
Oh, the Hive.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
It's gonna be February 8th is the opening night.
Time. Yeah. February 8th. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna jot that down. It's a Saturday? Sunday?
I believe it's a Saturday.
Saturday. Right?
Yeah, I think so. Because what the Oh, I have no idea actually. I need to look at a calendar.
Yeah. But I'll jot it down, man. That's dope. And how many pieces do you have on there?
I think I'm gonna have a good like 4 or 5 paintings.
Sick.
Yeah.
That's dope.
My buddy Chris Waterman, he's throwing the show. So it's gonna be a group show, but it's gonna be some really powerful artists there. Including himself, his like Instagram's like Radix Rising Creative, and then Allison Bamcat. I think Daniel Toledo is going to be there too, but I need to look at the roster again. It was actually a show. It's called Whimsical Fury.
Whimsical Fury.
Yeah, and it's a good collection of artists, and then it's kind of like the whimsy and like the kind of darker elements.
Yeah.
So everything. So
it's got like a mix of both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, but it was going to be thrown a couple months ago, and then the space where it was going to be held actually ended up closing. It was Vape Goat.
Vape Goat. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was a vape shop that also had hosted an art gallery, and unfortunately they had to close their doors.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, after like a long time having the space. Yeah. But after a couple months down the line, the Hive agreed to host the show instead. So.
Oh, dope. Hell yeah. Yeah, the Hive is a really cool gallery, man. And they I've been there probably like 3 times. I haven't actually been part of the show. I always miss the deadlines, dude.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but the artists they have there, man, amazing, man. Yeah, they have great work.
They've been like gallery like 10 years or over 10 years now?
Yeah, I think so. I know they've been there as long as like I've been doing art or whatever, and that's at least 7 years, or painting or whatever. Nice. I've been doing art like since I was little, but I didn't take it like serious or start like focusing on it till like 7 years ago. Yeah, like 2012.
Yeah, I started really getting serious about it. I had like one really good art teacher in high school, and she really like pushed me to like get into it, and that was good. She kind of saw like that I had some sort of like a unique aesthetic or unique like voice to it all, and then she like really pushed me into getting to it. And she was the best teacher I ever had, even through college and everything like that, because she was like the toughest.
Oh, she didn't bullshit you.
Right. Yeah, if something was crap, she would be like, this is crap.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Damn, dude. Like, I saw one of my friends, his art teacher, he was always doing it, but you could see when an art teacher takes an extra interest because they see this artist's either potential or they see their dedication to it, you know? And it's like, I saw that with my friend. It wasn't me. I wasn't really like focused on art at that time, but with my friend, I saw the teacher push him, you know, and like he was so much more advanced than everybody else, but she would push him. And that's what I was like, oh, he's not doing whatever he wants. Like she's fucking giving him work, you know, and it's just, he can handle that advanced work.
Mm-hmm.
But
I remember in high school because I was part of the AP art program.
Mhm.
Just gave you like the credits for college.
Oh, dope.
And this one kid was really upset in my class because our assignment was to like draw this bicycle, and I found a way to kind of cheat it by thinking outside the box a little bit, and I just put like my paper underneath the bicycle's shadow and just traced the shadow that it was casting, and then like rounded out all the pieces of the shadow. And the teacher really liked the idea, but then he was like, "Oh, and I've been spending all this time like drawing it like that." And he was like, "Can't I just draw it like Jesse's doing, like he's cheating?" And she was like, "No, because he thought of that, you know."
Yeah.
So
he thought it was cheating because you did it differently, because it's not a direct replica, it's a shadow,
right?
You know, he was mad that it was so unique, you know, as opposed.
I think he was mad because I found an easier way to do it.
Yeah, no, that's crazy, dude.
Found the easy way out.
It always trips me out when I see artists like get upset at another artist, you know. It always like, dude, like, don't worry about it, man. Like, so what if they're cheating? You know, it's like that's in the end, they know what they're capable of.
Yeah,
you know,
that's more so too. It's kind of like, you know, we all come from the kind of like the same creative mind in a sense. Like it's all kind of out there, and the way that you like choose to tap into it is just your own kind of style. As long as you're not directly like ripping something off from someone, then, you know, just live and let live.
Yep.
Don't be mad. Just use it to like motivate yourself to make better work.
Yeah. I was talking to another artist about what and it's a hard question, what your drive is to create. Like, what drives you to keep doing it? It can't just be money.
Right.
Like there might be artists that it's just the money, but I don't believe it. Like I there's so, like we were mentioning earlier, there's so much emotion poured into this stuff. It can't just be money. It can't just be like, oh, I love money so much, and you're like drawing because you love money. Like, I don't think that's the only emotion that can go through to create beautiful artwork.
Especially since, you know, depending on what your roots are, there's not a lot of money to get started with. No, you know,
no,
it's
not at
all. You
all.
have to like really build something for yourself before you make money.
Yeah.
But you know, and I think that kind of actually deters a lot of people, because they're the people who do kind of like get into it and they're like, oh, I'm gonna make so much money, I'm gonna go to Venice Beach or something and like sell these like Mickey Mouse smoking a bong over and over again. And yeah, that's cool, but you know, you get burnt out. And it's like, you're not in it for the long haul if you're in it for the money. Like with me, like if I don't get this stuff out, I'll explode. Yeah. You know, like it's all like trapped in the head. And unless it like gets out onto something, or I find a way to get that energy out, I'll get like, you know, mad. Yeah. I don't want to be mad.
Yeah. And it's you. Like at the end of the day, that's you, you know, and when you're creating to get money, you're creating what's marketable. It's not you anymore. It's just because it can sell. Like trending stuff and whatever, you know. I'm not hating fan art. I love fan art. I do fan art. But like if you're only doing fan art, like there's you gotta have a balance, and it's not you anymore. You're just.
Well, I have a story with that too, and I use the Venice Beach example, that Mickey Mouse smoking a bong and stuff like that. Not that I painted any of those things, but I did for the first 2 years when I moved here in 2013. All I did was sell artwork on Venice Beach.
On Venice. Oh, wow.
And it was before I had a car, so I'd like get up at like 4 a.m.
in the bus.
Yeah. I would take actually 2 trains and a bus. And I would have like some big canvases and stuff, and I'd wrap it in a big sheet, like a big white bed sheet. Put it all kind of like carried on my back. And I'm talking like some of these were like 4 by 4 feet and then up. Sometimes they wouldn't let me on the bus.
Wow.
Yeah, but I would take the blue line to the expo line. Okay. Get off there. I was before the expo line went all the way to Santa Monica. So I would get off at the Culver City stop, go down, take a bus, And then it would take me like 2.5 hours, right? But you had to get there before 7 o'clock in order to reserve a space for yourself,
Oh, wow.
you know, to set up at 9.
Yeah.
So then you get there at 7, you put a little placard and you'll watch your space to make sure no one takes it from you. And then at 9, you can finally set up. And then I would set everything up at 9, be set up by 10, and then, you know, break everything down at like sunset around like 7 o'clock. And then get home at like 10 o'clock, go right to bed, and then wake up the next morning at 4.
Dude,
Yeah.
you were hustling.
And it was tough, but I bring it up too because there was a point in time in what we're talking about where like there's one day I was working, like I took 2 days off. I made like a series of like 5 pieces, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the beach and I set up my little area and everything like that, my little display. And within 20 minutes, a guy who ran a gallery in San Francisco came and bought every one of my paintings.
Really?
Yeah, all at once.
What?
And he was like, oh, something told me, you know, because he just came from the other direction and then walked back.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, something told me that, you know, as I saw you like taking stuff out, that I was going to be interested in these pieces. So that felt great. And then, of course, what I ended up doing was going home, because I sold all my pieces, going home and tried to replicate those pieces because I thought they would all sell. And the pieces that I brought back, none of them sold.
Yeah.
Because I tried to make them look like something that I had in that like moment of creativity. And it's because I was like chasing that money, you know. I was like trying to
I'm gonna go double up. I'm gonna double up. Yeah.
I was trying to manufacture something that I thought people would like, and nobody liked it, you know.
Yeah.
So
it was just that one person who probably saw it and was like, "Oh, dude, like this resonates with me." But once you replicate it, it's
exactly,
it loses that charm.
It became a cheap replica because it was no longer in the moment. So the same thing. It's like you can't just make it for money because it kills your art, and that's what I learned with that experience.
No, definitely, man. Like. So what do you think your drive is? If you could explain it. I know it's hard because I can't even explain like mine really properly, you know?
I think I'd kind of chalk it up to happiness. Because like the highest points in my life are when I'm like making something. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like right when you're in like or you just put down some layers and you're like, wow, this thing looks fantastic. And it might be like 4 a.m. or something. And the next morning you look at it and you're like, oh, this is trash. But in that moment at 4 o'clock in the morning, when you're like working on something and you're looking at it and you're like, wow, like I really did something, like I really made something, I'm really happy with it. That just feels great. Yeah. And I want to feel like that all the time. So,
yeah, that's probably what pushes me. Like, one, that happiness, like that great feeling of accomplishment, of fulfillment. Like you're fulfilled at the end of that piece. No one's gonna take that, you know, all those hours, all that hard work, all that like emotion that pours in there. Like you're good, you're happy, you're content at that moment, you know. And it only happened once, and it'll happen for a little bit, and then you'll be like, you know, I think I got to start something else. Yeah. Or, you know, you'll find little stuff in your painting that you kind of like, I wish I would have done that a little differently.
Yeah, that's where the nitpicking stuff. Yeah. But when you have that, like that first initial, like, wow,
that fulfillment feeling.
Great.
Yeah,
man. You feel fantastic.
You definitely do.
And I guess I'm just chasing that all the time. But, you know, you get it more consistently because it just feeds into itself. Like the more time you put into it, the more you start to get a little bit better, and the more you start to get really happy with what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know?
You can create what you're seeing and feeling. Like you see this stuff, even though you're building it as you're going, you see it. Like you have more of a focused vision, you know, whereas like say the way I do it, it's more of you get like a blurry, like you get an idea, and you have kind of an idea of what you want and how you're going to do it. And then you build out, and then you go into the details. Whereas it seems like you're going into the details and you're building out. Oh yeah. You know what I mean? Because like when I do a painting, I block it out and I do big blocks, and then I sharpen the blocks and I, you know, move the shapes and I start refining it. Where it's like you're refining it and then you're building out, and it's trippy, man. When you really like look at it and like analyze it. Like, oh, you're like zoomed in and you're zooming out as you're creating this stuff.
One of the best compliments I got with like the way that I draw, came from Venice Beach too. As somebody who was walking by, and they just kind of like, were staring at it and stuff like that, and they're like, "Wow, like you use black line to create white line," and I was like, "Yeah." I'm like, yeah, that actually sounds really good.
Yeah.
And I mean, it sounds simple, but I never really thought about it like that. And I use like the larger like dark areas, or using since I'm using like the bold lines, I start to build out of like these extremely dark areas actually just white sections, white line, and that's where the focus or the real forms of my stuff take shape, as opposed to using those like borders. So it was kind of, I really enjoyed that for some reason.
Yeah. And it looks like you pay a lot of attention to like your negative space as well. Like you don't, because I know for me, negative space is something I have to force myself to look at. Like I have to force it, and I force myself because I know if I don't look at that, my brain is thinking your proportions are a certain way, and if I'm not looking at the negative space, by the time I realize it, it's too fucking late. I've already fucked up the paper or whatever. Like I have to look at the negative space to make sure proportions are proper to what I want, Yeah,
that is a constant struggle for me, is just leaving negative space. So
yeah.
I'm glad
you're trying to
I'm doing okay.
Yeah, you're doing good, man.
Because if it's left unchecked, it'll just keep like building and building until there's no negative space anywhere.
Yeah.
But that's what kind of like drawing digitally has kind of freed me up from.
Oh,
because I can just go nuts in a space and then extend the canvas as long as I want. And then I just keep like adding more and more and more. And then I've been doing like a bunch of like really large posters like that recently. I'll start working on one in a sec too.
And it's cool because even in those, you can crop sections and move them over and now start building from the overlapping of those two. Like, yeah, there's a lot of...
I love using like the symmetry and then breaking the symmetry and then building up in different layers from section to section.
Yeah, that's fun. And especially the way you go about creating your work. Like you literally have unlimited space, unlimited. You probably even save more time with chalking out ideas that way. But would you transfer that onto a canvas? Because once it's digital, you're not, because when I work digitally to create these,
right?
I compose my images, I figure out my colors, I figure out that stuff, and it's very loose, but it's and then I use that to create paintings. But how would you go about, would you try to recreate?
Well, when I do work digitally, a lot of it will be either like a final draft of something, and then I'll either print them. But the kind of battle is trying to take something and make it look less digital. So, a lot of people, like when they've seen like the posters and things, they'll ask if I've like drawn it and things like that. And of course I'm like, oh, it's a print. I actually just drew it on the iPad.
Yeah.
But it, just using Procreate and things, there are like tricks and stuff you can use
textures
to make it just look like, a regular drawing.
Yeah, regular paintbrush textures and stuff like that. Yeah. No, definitely. I think that's the best way to go about it, especially for your stuff, where it's like like you're saying, replicating it loses its charm. If you did it digitally and try to replicate it on a canvas, you'll probably won't even have fun with it.
Yeah, I think what it is kind of like, I like to do everything in that like one shot.
Yeah.
So it's like if I'm, and there is something to be said, like even if you look at like Picasso or something, he did like sketch upon sketch upon sketch upon sketch, like for Guernica or something like that. And you have all these different paintings that he did of like that particular bowl or different pieces, and you get a masterpiece like that. But I don't know, a lot of my characters, they retain charm when they're one off.
You do you do time-lapse videos of any of your paintings? Because I think that'd be interesting to watch.
I haven't. But it's because I'll be working like that newest one took like 3 years.
Shit.
Yeah. But if I could set up a camera and be like diligent about it, then
because that'd be dope, dude. That'd be dope to see, and then like see it all build, you know, especially if you know it does take you 3 years, like you know, maybe you could even see like the different segments as they're changing based on, you know, that time in your life or whatever, you know. That's crazy.
Yeah, you get a lot of it where like one of my paintings had like a bunch of soy sauce packets in it. I was eating a lot of Chinese food that day.
Yeah. So do you go back to Connecticut, right?
Yeah.
Do you ever go back? Like, do you have family there, or?
Well, my parents still live there.
Okay.
My sister lives in Louisiana. She's in there. Her and my brother are both in the Air Force. So I'm like the middle child. So my older sister, she's in the Air Force. So she's stationed down in Louisiana.
Oh, okay.
And then my brother, he's in the Air Force as well, but he's like the family genius. So like out of us, he's the smartest. He is really into writing.
Oh wow.
He after he went to the Air Force Academy, he went to Oxford on full scholarship.
Damn.
Yeah, and for North African studies. He loves North African literature. He's really into it. Now he's working in Washington.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
So,
that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, so now I guess I did miss this last Christmas where everybody was in Connecticut. But before, we'd all been going to Louisiana because my sister has kids and stuff like that.
Yeah. And
so she's kind of been like the place.
That's the hub. Yeah.
So she doesn't have to move around with all the kids, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that's cool, man. But at least you guys try to make a active, you know, to get together, you know.
The only time now that I've been back to Connecticut is to tattoo.
Oh really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you tattoo?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, dope. You tattoo that? Oh,
yeah. I work at Authentic Roots Tattoo in Long Beach.
Oh, really? Oh, awesome, dude! Another tattoo artist. Cool, man.
Yeah.
And how long you been doing tattoos for now?
Like 4 years.
4 years. Dope, dude. And I've never heard of Authentic Roots Tattoo in Long Beach. I'm gonna have to stop by your shop, man.
It's right in downtown, 7th and Long Beach Boulevard.
Right down the street from Peanuts, man.
It's right down the street. Yeah, right near Pine.
Yeah. Dope, dude. I'm gonna have to go to your studio now. I got an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
But that's dope, dude. And what do you, black and gray, like, or anything?
Actually, I do a lot of this on the skin.
Really? Dope.
Yeah. So
dope. I was about to ask you that.
And I do like a lot of like freehand and stuff like that. So people will come in and they'll just give me like a section of skin, and I'll just freehand my own style
with the markers and stuff. And you're like, hey, what do you?
Actually, usually just from the brain right into the skin. So I'll just make a big red box or something, and then and then I'll just go.
Dude, that's dope.
Sometimes they give me themes. One of them that was on my Instagram that was pretty cool recently. Somebody wanted specifically like the helmet of Russell Crowe's like final competitor in Gladiator.
Yeah.
So like it was that mask. It's like a metallic mask with like a lion or a tiger on top.
Mm-hmm.
And then he wanted also, because there's a scene where he's like spitting out blood from the mask, so it's also crying and has like blood coming out of its mouth. Whoa. But it was all done in my own style, and it was all freehand, and it came out really fun.
That's dope, dude.
Yeah. So either people will give me like a very specific, like just a patch of skin, where it's like do whatever you want in this specific area.
This is kind of what I want, but in your style.
Exactly.
Dude, it's dope when customers let you do that. When customers are like, dude, I like your style. I trust you enough. Just, this is kind of what I want or whatever. Like, they give you creative freedom, you know?
It definitely makes you feel good.
Yeah, especially for tattoos, man. Tattoos are it's very catered to what they want specifically. Mm-hmm. And
it's also, you know, like, it helps to, or it makes you feel especially good because, you know, they want it on their body forever. Yeah. Like, that's a whole nother level.
Yeah.
Like, it's like I can buy somebody's piece and put it in my house. Doesn't mean I want it on my body.
Yeah.
You know? But if somebody's like, hey, you know, like, I like your stuff enough to, like, get it tattooed into my flesh, then that's, like, a whole nother level of, like, wow, you know?
Yeah, like, it's different. It's totally different. Like, one paying, because you're also paying money for it. It's not like, oh yeah, I like it enough to want it. Like, one, I want to pay for it, and two, the permanence of it being in my body.
Oh yeah.
And on display, and like, even if it's not on display, like,
and you gotta suffer for it too.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's not you gotta
cakewalk.
Yeah, you gotta earn it. But that's dope, man. I didn't even know you were a tattoo artist, dude.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah, I've been lucky. That was I made a transition from working at the beach, basically, bringing all those things, all my pieces and everything, to getting an apprenticeship at the first place that gave me a tattoo. And then from there, I just stayed there. Like, all a great group of people. We've had some artists go in and out, but the owner, Ben,
every shop though.
Yeah, but the owner, Ben, is a really amazing guy, and he specializes in all types of art, but he does a lot of the Polynesian tribal, and he does a lot of like black and gray realism, things like that. And he taught me how to tattoo, and we have a great mix. Like, a lot of tattoo artists are very specialized.
Yeah.
There are different like shops in Long Beach who specialize in only American traditional or only Japanese American, kind of something like that. But we have an artist who does everything,
Yeah. Oh, that's dope. Yeah, I think that gets more people in, like, it makes you more diverse as a tattoo shop.
I think it's really cool because then you're learning from everybody.
Yeah.
And you can see techniques that some artists are using in what's traditionally like the Polynesian tribal, and you start to see some of it incorporated into these other styles, or just like, and I think because of that we get like this base of like just a really good foundation of tattooing, because you're not only experiencing like a good tattoo artist of one style, but great tattoo artists of all these different styles kind of coming like combined in one area. You get to bounce your ideas off of them.
Exactly.
And it strengthens everything.
Yeah. And so, I've seen tattoo artists, they ask other artists for, hey, what do you think of this? Or, let's say they lay out the stencil and they're like, hey, you get a couple of extra eyes, and and I'm strictly speaking from like a third person perspective. Like, I've seen artists, and they bounce ideas off each other, and they're like, hey, you know what, you might want to make that a little smaller, and it's like it's nice to have those different eyes, because they specialize, like you said, in different areas and different, maybe they dealt with that area of the body a lot more, and be like, dude, you're gonna have a hard time trying to get that ink on there if you're placing it that way. And I'm being very vague. I don't know exactly.
Well, you touch on a good point, which is basically, especially with tattooing, you're not just painting on a flat surface. You're essentially chiseling ink and pushing it under the skin of a round object. Also an object that has different depths, different consistencies of skin, and every person is different.
Yep.
So really, the more skin you get to and the more parts of the body you get to tattoo, well,
you'll recognize it a little faster, right?
Yeah, you'll get more of an experience with it, but you also like, how to compensate. Like, it's like if you're traveling from like a forearm up to the top of your bicep or something, there's that section right there where your elbow bends, and it's so thin there that you have to adjust your needle depth and things like that. You can't just keep it consistent. So those little tricks like will help. You have to think about like irritating somebody's skin. You have to worry about their safety, things like that, and like what you're gonna do to them. You don't want to scar someone.
Yeah.
You want to be very gentle. You want it to be generally painless, and you also you don't want to draw a bunch of blood either.
Yeah.
All those things to be considered.
Yeah, it's not. I've tried tattooing a couple of times, and I've done a couple of tattoos, man. But for that, you need to learn it properly. You need to give it its your full attention.
Yeah,
you're not dealing with just paintings and canvases. You're dealing with people. Yeah,
you need somebody to help you and show you what to do, because there's so many things that there are artists who have worked in their bedrooms for 20 years and stuff like that. They work at home, and they've done tons of tattoos and stuff like that. But you see a very slow progress with them. And what that took them 20 years to realize working by themselves, you know, people who worked 4 years with other tattoo artists who had like a real apprenticeship, you pick it up.
Yeah.
You know, when you have somebody sitting there and being like, hey, you know, let me show you the route that you want to achieve. You know, I'll show you not the shortcut, but I'll show you the most direct path to achieving what you want out of this. It really helps you. And you learn the things that will not only like keep people safe, but also, you know, like really project, like you will be able to make the bridge over from what's in your mind or what your normal art style is to being able to do it on skin, because it's completely relearning your craft.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. I actually the two of my friends who got me into painting are tattoo artists, and I saw them start to tattoo to full-blown tattoo artist and going from, you know, shops to shops depending on where they lived at the time, you know.
Yeah.
And I saw their transition. I still see their transition, you know, and I still see their skill level improve. And, you know, and I saw like all the shit they had to learn, you know, whether it's dealing with customers, where it's learning certain techniques. And, you know, also there's like I guess politics in tattoo shops, or there's certain tattoo shops where it's like, you know, it's a little more hectic or whatever. You know, which tattoo shops have certain, you know,
there are like, there's a lot of etiquette involved.
Yeah.
But that's just each shop has like its own kind of form of etiquette.
Yeah, their own culture.
Another thing that makes our shop so great is we're all kind of new world tattooers, and what I mean by that is like old school tattooers, and not like experience wise, like, you know, Ben's been tattooing over like, you know, like 15 to 20 years, something like that, right? But what I mean by that is there's this old ideology with tattoo artists where they were very competitive with one another. They were kind of mean, kind of rude, you know. The tattoo community was so small and kind of still taboo that you know, they were doing you a favor by welcoming you into this culture, right?
Yeah.
But nowadays you can get a tattoo anywhere. You know, it's a much bigger community. It's a lot more like accepted. It's in pop culture. Everybody and their mom has a tattoo. So it's like, you know, our shop, like, we're all nice. You know, like, we want to have people come in, you know, and things like that. And with a lot of like the old world ideology, like it was very much like everybody was in competition with each other.
You're reserved with your knowledge. Yeah. You're like, no, you have to know how to make ink needles from scratch. And it's like, okay, they make them now. Like, why do I need to, you know? And it's like, no, you have to. Like, that's the way to do it.
There's a lot. And it was, I mean, it's interesting because that switch is fairly recent too, between those kind of ideologies. But
yeah, very, very, very recent.
Oh yeah. But even as an example, you have like what's his name? He has a Sailor Jerry.
Sailor Jerry.
Yeah, he has a really famous like a whiskey now, and it has like some of his original drawings, you know, in the like inside of the label. Yeah, it's all like American traditional.
Yeah,
he was like a really big artist, you know, like late 40s, early 50s, things like that. Really massive artist. See, there are documentaries about him, and they talk about, you know, how he was out in Hawaii, and he was any given weekend tattooing like thousands of American sailors coming through there, right?
Yeah.
And you know, he was like the big name at the time, and especially with that form of tattooing. But he was a very competitive person, and people would come to him. In one particular story, they said that another artist came to his shop and was admiring all the tattoo flash, his drawings that were up on the walls. And he said, wow, like, how do you get the colors in your flash to be so vibrant and bright? You know, like, I would love to do it. And he's like, it's super easy. All you have to do is add sugar to your ink. And so the other artist went back to his shop, put sugar in with his tattoo ink that he put up in his flash, and cockroaches came and ate all his flash off the wall. You know, it devoured all his artwork.
So he would give him like the wrong.
Exactly.
advice.
He specifically went out to like, everybody was in competition with each other. So, luckily, like that kind of world of the tattoo artists has been changing. Swiftly fading.
Yeah.
And it's actually, I think, in part due to the fact that now there's so many artists, like strict artists, tattoo artists, where it's like, you can take any style and adapt it onto the skin. Mm-hmm. The color realism and things like that, like with artists like Nico Hurtado or Steve Butcher are like so realistic, so beautiful. And then you have other styles, like there's this artist I love, David Cote, who has like these immense, like very surrealist kind of dark, like kind of cinematic, weird, like nightscapes. He's like very surreal, very fun, but just super something you would see in like a 50s like gallery, like Georgia O'Keeffe style, know, like these immense, like just pure art. And you can do it. You can achieve it now on skin. And because there's such like not only like a plethora of these artists, but also artists who are just in it for the art, like it's a much nicer community.
They're pushing it.
And they're pushing
that the everybody. Level of tattooing. Like you could see like there's the style got pushed where it's not just what hyperrealism, like it's like down to paintings, down to like straight fucking paintings on skin. And it's like you see I saw like a tattoo that I thought was really cool, and it was literally a image of a thick brush stroke of paint,
and it looked just like a brush stroke,
and it looked like a brush stroke, everything. And I was like, oh man, that's a dope tattoo. Like, and it was just a single brush stroke, and I was like, oh man, if like they wanted to, with the big enough space, obviously they could create a beautiful like alla prima painting tattoo, you know what I mean, where you can see the texture, you see the heavy.
There's also like there's a big craze recently with something that are called what they called like patch tattoos, where it's like they actually look like
like patches, patch. With the texture, with
and it has the actual like kind of threading texture and everything, and those are just beautiful, especially when you get the cast shadow on it just right, and it looks like somebody just put a patch on your skin. Definitely. It's incredible what you can do with it now. Tracking back to like that, like the dog eat dog, mentality that, older tattoo artists, kind of have or would have. And it's not everybody. I don't want to just say everybody, but it's right. And there are a lot of nice people who have been tattooing for 40 years.
And they're not like that.
Right. But there are a lot of people too who I've met who have been really like dodgy about stuff.
And like going back to that, it reminded me of, I was like, kind of studying this whole the Baroque era, which is like paintings like that one, the David one, where it's like dramatic, it's the era after the Renaissance. And it's just dramatic paintings and dramatic figures and stuff. But there was this guy who had an assassination attempt on him by like a mafia type art group, and the art group are like master painters. Like people still collect their paintings because they're beautiful, but they don't like other artists moving into their city. So there were cases where that artist had an assassination attempt on him, and they killed his apprentice. And when he found that out, he booked it because he was doing like a mural, I think. But what they would do to them too is they would put sand in his paint. And back in the day, making paint was like, that's why you had apprentices, because you cannot make all the paint you need for a giant mural on your own.
There's no stores back then to just walk over to. You had to make that.
You had to make that. So when like these little like mafia art groups were going, they would put sand in their paint and just set them back fucking months, and it's like terrorizing just because they were painting in their city, And when I thought about it, I was like, man, like, it's weird to think that someone so talented can have such an immature mindset,
I think the problem is, and we touched on it earlier too, is when money gets involved with something, it has a way of lousing everything up. There's a lot of money in public art.
Yep.
There's a lot of money in mural painting and things like that. And, you know, people get jealous. And
that's human.
It's human, but it's how you deal with those emotions, you know? Like you gotta, like I said, if you're jealous of something, just acknowledge that it's good, that the jealousy comes from yourself and it's insecurity, that you feel like maybe you're not as good as something, and then just use it to make yourself better. Be like, oh, well, you know, if I'm feeling insecure, this work worries me because I feel like it's better than myself, then what can I look at it and like take from it and then use it to make myself better, you know?
Yeah, don't fester with it. Don't let it fester.
Yeah, it's just like unhealthy.
The initial thought and the initial feeling is gonna happen. There's no way you can control it. That's human, but to let it fester and let it eat you up inside and let it control you.
Pouring sand in somebody's paint. You've let it fester.
Yeah, it's too much. Like really, their downfall is gonna make you better. It's not.
No,
it's not. You're just gonna be in the same spot, if not worse. You know. And it's it's crazy to think about that, like how your insecurities really affect your ability to grow though as an artist. Like, some people get so upset at somebody else's achievements that they don't even push themselves. They're just so focused on somebody else. Like,
yeah. Well, the time you spend like just feeling angry at someone is time that you could spend painting.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely.
Your time is like very valuable. And if you give all your time to somebody else who's not giving you their time, you know, then it's not worth it, you know?
I was talking about in a previous podcast about how like I the older I get, the more I think about how little time I have left here, and not because I'm afraid. You know, I don't think I'm afraid anymore of like dying or whatever, but because there's so much shit that I need to create to achieve what I want to achieve before I die. Like I'm thinking, like before it was, hey, I'm gonna focus on this painting. Like, this is my painting. Oh, cool. If it comes out the way I want it, that's dope. But now, like, not till recently, man, like a year and a half ago, I'm really thinking of my entire body of work. Like, when I die, what do I want my work to say? Do I want to say something? Do I want it to do something? Or do I want it to be a reflection of my society at the time or what's trending? You know? Yeah. No, I want it to represent my personality as much as it possibly can, because like you said earlier, emotions are here. You know how you felt when you fucking tried to make this nose or whatever. You know exactly what you were going through. Every single one, because there's so much focus when you're in there, you know, when you're painting, and like all that stuff. Like, what do I want it to say? And I realized that I want my personality to show through these, you know? My bad. Sorry about that. But yeah, like that's what I want. I want someone, when they look at my body of work, like, hey, like, oh, that's the type of person this person was, you know? But it can't. And then not till like the last podcast, I was like kind of running through ideas, and it can't just be my paintings. Like, it has to be like podcast. And you know, when you think back at old master painters, you can read their journals if they kept their journal, and you can kind of see the type of artist they were. But imagine you can hear fucking 2-hour podcast with an artist and like really get to know the type of the way their mind worked a little bit. Obviously you won't completely understand them, but that on top of their artwork, like you get more of a cohesive view of like who they were, you know? And it's like, I believe that's the only way I'm ever going to be able to leave a little like glimpse of me. Yeah, like a legacy or something of me here, you know? Because I don't really want kids, you know, at least the way my mind works right now. I don't want kids. I don't, you know, Kids aren't an option.
I can barely take care of myself for stuff.
Yeah, so I'm like, that's not in my mind, you know. I don't believe my legacy it's based on blood or, you know, a child or whatever, you know. I could be completely wrong, but that's just my way of thinking right now.
Yeah.
And I feel like the only thing I'm gonna leave here is these little creations, these little paintings, these little things, you know. And I need, if I want to create what's in here in my head, I need to get better at techniques because they're not where I need them, you know, or where I'm imagining them that I can get them to, you know. You're creating your own little reality in these things.
Mm-hmm. They also all become like a snapshot of you.
Yeah.
You know, like when people do specifically set out and like paint a self-portrait, but every piece that you make is a self-portrait.
Yeah.
Every part is like a little fragment of yourself too.
And when I started thinking like that, man, or thinking of it like that, I felt so much relief with things not selling, things not moving, things not getting, you know, certain recognition or whatever. I stopped caring about all that stuff because in the end, that's just a piece of a little tiny puzzle, you know? And it's like, it's not the whole thing. Like that just got me to what you're really gonna like. That's just a little stepping stone, you know? It's like, I don't care. Like, but it is like, it's me, you know, it's a little stepping stone, but it's me. Like, I don't care if you like it or not.
It also does help too. Like I noticed, have you ever read anything by like H.P. Lovecraft?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you can actually find recordings of him where he would talk into the microphone and things like that, and that coupled with his work,
his way of writing,
yeah. So I mean, you get the way that he speaks, then you get his writing, and that just like builds so much more of an allure to him as like a real like contributor to like the creative realms, you know.
Yeah,
you really do get a sense of who he was based on his voice. So I think it's awesome what you're doing for sure.
Yeah, and it's not just for me. That's why I want to interview artists. I was speaking like, I want to do this because you don't know when an artist is going to grow so much that they're going to become influential or an example to other artists. You know, you don't know when an artist is going to reach that level of self-fulfillment and like people resonate with that at that time, you know. But like, maybe if I do more of these where I'm talking to people, I'll get to meet that person, you know, and I'll see that person grow into that. Like, that makes me happy, seeing somebody like go from the level they're at and become so driven and so disciplined, where they're like, you know, they're the pinnacle of like achieving recognition for the person they are.
A side note too, you never know when they're gonna die. So if people at home, if you're hearing this and I'm already dead,
no, definitely, man. That portrait over there is of my friend who passed away a couple years ago, man. And he's the reason I even started making merchandise. Yeah. Man, he was a great artist. He had his gallery in Tustin. He opened it up to every artist. He had open mic night. He had comedy stand-up night. You know, he had a free life drawing. You know, he would just have cosplay people come over, and he was just very active with artists, you know. And it's like,
well, what was his style? What kind of pieces did he do?
He had like a very whimsical style. He did very emotional pieces. He did you know, fantasy characters mixed in with, you know, he was great at portraits. You know, he was great at human portraits, like, you know, life drawing portraits and stuff like that. And he had a very diverse style, you know. And I remember talking to him, and he would tell me like, dude, one of the reasons like I started this gallery was because taking my artwork to galleries, I was denied so many times because of my style. Because my style didn't fit this contemporary or whatever that the gallery was trying to go for, you know. And he just got tired of getting said no, and he just like decided to build his own. He's like, that's my goal. I'm gonna make my own gallery, and I'm not gonna deny anybody anything, no matter what level, whatever, you know, what level they are. Like, if you want a space, like, it's here, like, you know. And I was like, oh man, not selfish. Like it's you're not only like thinking of what you want, but you're also thinking of the good you can do for other artists.
And building like a real community.
Exactly.
And also having like he was setting out to do, have a space where everybody is welcome.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. And, you know, because, yeah, every artist goes through that. You're denied, and then you have to get to a breaking point where, like, well, if, you know, I'm not part of this scene, I better go and make my own scene.
Yeah, man. And encouragement from an artist at that level can do so much for someone. And I say that because it happened to me. You know, his little encouragement, it wasn't anything crazy, you know, but just like little words of encouragement. I was like, man, you know, if he's telling me this stuff, and I'm sure he's not lying, you know, like maybe I could like try to sell some of my stuff. And that just took me on and on and on. Now I'm like creating, you know, more and more and more and more. And I got hooked, dude. I got hooked. But it was just like little, you know, encouragement.
I get that sometimes on Instagram where it's like artists who I like really look up to, and they'll actually like something of mine, and then we'll start a conversation, and it's like, yeah, you know, like I like your stuff, and it's hard as like an artist to like see something that you're doing and be really, really happy with it. Like I said, it's easy to be happy with it at 4 a.m, but the next day, it's really easy to be down on it again.
And then, real quick.
But when other people, like you said, who are like really high caliber artists, or you look up to them, and they just give you a little bit of kindness, it makes a world of difference.
Yeah, it definitely does. And it doesn't cost you anything.
Right.
You're not buying prints from them. You're not spending money on them. It doesn't literally cost you anything but being honest to them. You know, and I've met artists where they're like, they'll look at somebody else, oh, that's dope, but you will see the little bit of like withdrawal. You know, I don't know if I'm explaining myself right, but like, you see not a resentment, but like they're withholding with their, not praise, but like letting you know what they really think about it. Right. They'll just like kind of brush it off, like, oh, that's dope, blah, blah, blah. Well, you know,
we are at a weird part, or there is a weird like kind of break in our culture or our society. And it also goes hand in hand with, if you notice, like a lot of people who hang out with each other, they very rarely will like challenge each other, or some people don't have friends who challenge them, which is weird. Everybody has to be on the same page constantly, you know. And it's actually good to have people like challenging you or giving you a real criticism or something like that. So, you know, a lot of those people who might be reserving their like real criticism or real ideas towards a piece might actually be trying to avoid confrontation, which isn't always a good thing. You know, sometimes you got to go and be like, hey, you know, like I like this, but why'd you do this thing right here? And then somebody's like, oh, you know, I did this because of this. And you challenging them actually led to you being like, wow, I gained a greater understanding of something that this other artist did. Or on the opposite, if they're like, oh, well, that's not technically correct, or I don't understand why you did that, but maybe next time if you tried something like this, I think you would get a more successful piece. Then that person grows. So either way, you're going to win in that situation. But if you just don't say anything, or you just say, oh, that's cool, then nobody wins. Nobody gets anything out of it.
There's no growing from it. Like getting someone's honest opinion on stuff, or even working through it. Like sometimes someone will show me a piece that's not finished, and I don't understand certain things about their decisions. I'll ask them like, oh, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? And like, even them working through that, like that's already helping you know, because you're understanding a different style. Just because you don't see it that way, them explaining it, be like, oh, dude, that does work. You know, it'll, at first, you know, you might be like, nah, like that looks weird. But then when you really put yourself out of, you know, the way you're viewing things, because you're viewing it on your judgment, the way you look at it, just putting yourself in their shoes and be like, oh, damn, that piece does look sick that way. Like, no, keep it, like, you know. And then you start if that person's like, oh, what do you think of this? When they really want you to tell them what they think, they'll accept some of that, you know, not criticism, more like constructive criticism, and it'll change the composition. It'll change the paint, and it'll make it stronger. Like I like my wife's an artist, and she fucking tells me the way it is. Like if I'm fucking up on an piece, she'll be like, yeah, that doesn't, you know, she'll be a little nice about it, but she'll be blunt about it. You know, she'll be like, yeah, nah, I don't, why would you? It doesn't even look like that or something, you know. And then I'm always like, man. I know you're right, but yeah, I know you're right, but
you don't understand how much time I put into it.
Yeah, but it's like, fuck, I wish I would have figured it out earlier, you know?
Yeah.
And you need that. You need that. You need those you need art friends and artists around you if you're an artist.
Well, it's interesting too, because in the same fashion, you know, if you close yourself off to giving criticism, taking criticism, you're really limiting yourself. And, you know, as like artists, we're only able to like grow as far as our experience lend us to, you know? And what I mean by that is like, even in a primitive sense, like our brains are wired in a way to give us endorphins for things that we have experienced. You know, when we recognize something, it actually makes us happy or releases endorphins. And, you know, you get this in something that's called face blindness. Have you ever heard of it?
Oh, where you don't recognize people?
Yeah, you can't recognize somebody's face, right? And it is a reduction in like an endorphin that's released when you recognize someone or something, right? You know, so it exists. It's a very, very real thing. But, you know, if you are exposed to a bunch of things and you experience all these different things, see all these different art styles, in like influencers kind of give you like a bunch of different ideas based on like, you know, the questions that you ask them, then you're exposed to all these things and you can be like, hey, I really love this piece of art because it reminds me of A, B, and C, right? You know, but if you close yourself off to those criticisms, experiences, interaction, and, you know, deprive yourself of like, you know, asking questions about somebody's work, then it actually closes you off to it. You don't get to understand it, and you also don't get to use those experiences in your own arsenal.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. You need that, and the more you do it, the better. And it's not even just art. It's like in general as a person. Like what I was talking to my wife about this, where like I've met people where I don't have friends. Like I don't do friends anymore, blah, blah, blah. I've been backstabbed so many times, blah, blah. And they're very closed off people. And, you know, when other people meet them, they're very reserved, very shut off, even though they're not like that. But that's just the appearance they give people because they have been fucked over so many times.
Right.
And I was like, okay, that's a way to defend, you know, kind of defend yourself a little bit, not let people in, you know, just kind of close yourself off a little bit, because every time you open yourself up, you know, you get disappointed. But I believe that's a way to deal with that. Like, I've been screwed over, and yet I treat everybody the same I would treat that person that screwed me over. The only difference is I know how to spot that type of person now, because I know exactly the point that person did. They changed, or they showed their real self. Yeah. And unless I have those experiences, I won't be able to tell that right away. It'll take me longer, and it'll take me longer. But if I'm experiencing it, you know, I know how to avoid it quicker. But if you close yourself off, you're not learning that. Right. You're just like, okay, that's it. Now everybody's like fucked. Like everybody's.
Or you're finally gonna open yourself up to someone down the line, and because it's a new type of trickery,
you don't build those antibodies or whatever. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and that's why I was telling my wife, I was like, I'm happy the way I am. I'm very friendly, but I'm not closed off. But I'm also very aware of the type of people I'm trying to interact with, because I don't want to get screwed over, or, you know, I don't want to let someone in that can screw me over, you know? So,
but unless you had been screwed over in the beginning, you would never know.
You would never know, yeah. And it's like, you just gotta let people in and like be conscious about everything. Don't just kind of, oh yeah, you're my friend now, blah blah blah, and it's like, no, you gotta just be conscious about, you know, the interactions you have with people, and like, one, you'll know them better, and if they're great people, you have a more of a great relationship with them because you took the time to know them better. But you're probably doing it because you were weary, but you know them better, you know. And it's yeah, man, people gotta get out there and experience stuff. You know, and definitely network with artists and talk to artists, and any artist. It doesn't have to be, you know, painters or visual artists, like musicians, and you know, and anybody who spends the time to create their reality. You know, whether it's music, movies, you know, video, whatever.
Surrounding yourself with other creatives is like always essential.
Yeah.
Do you guys have like any of the Incan drinks or anything?
Yeah.
In Whittier?
No, I go to the one in Long Beach.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I go to that one all the time.
Oh yeah, I was. Yeah. Did you go to the last one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was there, man.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's dope. Maybe we could. I'm going to the one in the 28th.
28th.
Yeah. 28th. Yeah. Oh, we'll kick it. Yeah.
Yeah, I go to them every single month. But those are the places where I've met a lot of great artists. That's how I've been getting into shows and things like that. Because these artists, they want to build a scene. You know.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to kind of come together, and you know, there are a lot of artists there who are really doing it. So,
yeah. No, definitely.
I'm really, really happy that I like started going to those. I've been consistent. People, you know, have said hi to me and recognized me, and you know, you just kind of go, and it's also a really great place where, you know, because generally a lot of artists are kind of shy. You know, we're very introverted and things like that because we're in our own heads trying to like bring everything from the inside out onto a page or onto a canvas.
Yeah.
But I always found it was like a great place where it's like you could kind of just focus and do you for a second, and then it's like a great segue to talking with somebody.
To bring in some.
Yeah. Somebody comes up and they're like, wow, I really love that. You know, my name's Jeff. Hi, how you doing? You know, that kind of stuff.
I think that's where I got my most confidence with public speaking. When I was doing conventions, and when I was talking about my art. Because that's the thing I know the most of, you know? And there's times where I'll be in a conversation and I'm already like psyching myself out. Like, dude, like there's things you're going to talk about that you don't even know what the fuck. Like, you don't know. You're talking because you think you know or whatever. Like, you don't really know, you know? And you're just trying to go with the conversation, you know? But with art, like, you know it. And if you don't know it, it's so interesting that you're not in your own head, you know, you're not in your own head, like trying to map out this conversation to make it flow or whatever.
It's actually like the one topic too that's like fun to not know much about. Like if somebody's like, hey, you know, have you ever done this thing with glazes? You know, a lot of people will be like, yeah, you know, and it's like, you know, if you don't know, then it's actually fun to ask those questions. You're like, you know, I've never experimented with that. Like, tell me more. And people want to talk about it, you know?
And I would go to conventions and ask artist questions. Like the way I would kind of break the ice or just network with a lot more artists, especially at conventions, is I would go up to their table and I would hand them free stickers of whatever I had, like my artwork. Be like, here, have some stickers. And they're like, if they're an artist, they're gonna be like, dude, seriously? Like, oh, thank you, blah, 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 you know? It's like, oh, no, I just kind of admire your work. I thought, you know, I would give you something. And then from there, you start, like, asking them about their artwork. Oh, is this, you know, color pencil? Is this, you know, a little bit about the medium? And artists like to talk about, like, how they built that, you know? I don't think there's an artist that would be like, nah, it happens.
I encountered one artist in New Orleans.
Really?
Who had, like a big private, like, gallery and stuff like that, and it was more so their manager, because I could tell that artist, he like wanted to say something, but the manager was like coming up and she's like, no, he has this secret formula of how he creates these backgrounds, and you know, and he was like, I was like, how do you do it? And he's kind of like giving me these hints, and she's like, you know,
wow.
That was the only experience I ever had.
That's so cringy.
Where I was asking, the guy kind of wanted to talk about it, but the manager like was like, it's a secret, and nobody can copy these. It was just black backgrounds.
Yeah, and I'm sure she was doing it for marketing, or she was like, or she felt like you were gonna copy the style. Like, come on, lady.
Yeah.
Like we're artists. We're like, there's a. Oh, leading into that.
Yeah.
What do you think of forgers? Art forgers.
Like I said earlier too, if you're ripping someone off, then.
Have you seen like documentaries on famous art forgers?
Oh, like when people go and they
replicate a master?
It? I haven't seen any of those.
Dude, I saw one on YouTube. I'll send you the link.
Yeah.
This guy, like, his ego, dude. His ego, he was like, I don't even do it for the money anymore. It's just convincing these guys that it's a real one. That's the thrill. And I was like, you're not even doing it because you like the artist. Now it's just like, you want to fuck over the system or this artist system by just fooling them.
Well, with that idea, it's kind of interesting because it makes me feel like he's some sort of like mercenary villain.
Yeah.
Where it's like a rich guy's like, okay, I need you to go kill this guy. Yeah. He's like, I'll just do it for the thrill of the hunt.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the art world is kind of corrupt at the same time.
It's really corrupt.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of just money changing hands.
I heard.
Sometimes people challenge that system too. So
where did I hear this? But that there's certain segments in the art world where art's used to launder money.
Oh, yeah.
Like art might not even be worth that much, but it's just being used to launder money. To like trade hands, and like the artwork loses its it's, I don't know, like it's soul, I guess, right? Because now it's not being valued based on the creativity of it. It's being valued on literally, hey, monetary. This is the painting that's gonna make me launder this much money. Mm-hmm. And like,
yeah, there's an episode of that show, Adam Ruins Everything.
Adam Ruins Everything?
Yeah, Adam Ruins Everything, where he talks about, because he just talks about all these different things, all these different subjects from like Listerine all the way down to like popsicle sticks, whatever. But he did an episode with the art world where he said, yeah, like a lot of foundations will use it as a way to donate, because what they'll do is they'll buy a painting for say like 10 grand or something, right? Mm-hmm. And then they go, they purchase it, 10 grand, they get their foundation to do it, then they go and they'll bring it to their own appraiser, who will appraise like this $10,000 piece at like $1 million. And then
the price.
Yeah, and then when it comes time to pay taxes, they're like, I could pay taxes, or I could donate this $1 million work of art to this foundation over here, and then I'd get it as a tax write-off.
Wow.
So that's a lot of corporations do it too. It's
that's why they collect.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then they don't have to pay taxes because they're donating these,
big ass.
Yeah. Incredibly valuable works of art that might actually only be a couple $1,000s.
Damn. I wonder how you even become an appraiser. How do you even calculate?
That's what I'd like to know. What certifies you?
Like, I have a hard time calculating my prices.
Mm-hmm.
How does someone calculate the worth of my work when I'm the one who? It's so weird when you really break it down and think about it. It's pretty weird.
Yeah, I think what's interesting in the art world is a lot of it has to do with like a relevancy factor. It's like, what have you done that is important? Or like, what is the work doing, or what like portion in time are you working in that makes your stuff relevant or important to art history in a way?
Yeah.
You get a lot of people who are like these sensational painters, and I'll say sensational painters like, ex-presidents or something like that, who decide to start like printing midlife crisis, or start painting
yeah,
midlife crisis.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, it's an important work of art because it's this person who's important to our history. Or like, musicians do it or something like that.
Stallone paints.
Right.
Jim Carrey paints. I like Jim Carrey though.
Yeah.
I like his studio. Have you seen his studio?
His studio is really cool. Yeah.
Dude, I like cried when he was like painting and he used a giant fucking fat tube of, I believe it was oil, but even if it was acrylic, it's a big expensive fat tube, and he was just like,
right.
And I was like, oh, why?
Oh, to have unlimited resources, right?
I was like, why? But gangster, like okay, like you got it like that, like you can just one stroke, one tube,
Yeah.
That's That's definitely a freedom. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get to that level. Definitely, for sure. But, there are, like, with those sensationalized painters, there is kind of an abuse of the craft, too.
Yeah.
And then the same thing with, like, already, like, Lars Ulrich is kind of, like, seen as real scummy. But, his father is, like, the biggest art dealer in all of Europe, right? So his father wrote paychecks and got Metallica where they were all over the place, right?
Yeah.
But, he also sell these $1 million paintings that are not only, like, technically not good, they just don't look good.
Yeah.
But, it's another abuse where it's like, oh, well, I'm the drummer for Metallica, so I
buy my paintings.
buy my paintings. That's important, because I'm important. And it's yeah. It's weird because there's always this play in the fine art world, and even with real legitimate painters, where it's like, are you buying the work because it's good, or are you buying it because of whose name's attached to it?
Yeah.
And you'll see it, and I've seen so many documentaries, even like Exit Through the Gift Shop has that woman, she's walking around her house and she's like, well, I love this because it's a Banksy. I love this piece, and I have it over here, but I put my Warhols and my Herrings in the closet. They're names.
Yeah, it's just names.
It doesn't matter like what the piece is. And when she describes it, she says, I love this piece because it is a Banksy. Such and such. Doesn't say I love this piece because of the wings on it, or the, it was an angel piece, I believe. And she didn't say anything about what the piece was about or why it was important to her. She only said who it was by.
Who it was by. Yeah. That's those are that's why also I'm not so worried about my stuff selling right away, because I know the right person will be okay with paying with what I think it's worth, and I'm not overpricing this stuff where it's like, oh yeah, that's sold, yay, it's like it's priced based on such a low bar where I think if I go any lower, it's not worth it. I'm losing money. I'd rather keep it in my collection than hand it off to someone, and have the risk of it being lost forever. Like, it's okay if you take it. Like, that was just a piece. Like, sometimes people get really picky about who takes their paintings.
Oh yeah. And very attached to work sometimes.
Yeah. Too. And I mean, I guess the way I'm trying to go about things, I get a really deep attachment with them, but at the same time, it's like, you gotta let them go, dude. Like, they gotta go out there. The more people see this, the better for you.
You gotta eat sometimes too,
dude. And I was talking about this subject. Like, are you a full-time artist? Yeah. Okay. Do you run into scenarios where you down price your artwork because you gotta eat? Where, like, let's say you set a price and then someone comes at you, oh, I'll give you like 300 or whatever, and it's like a little bit less than what you're willing to let it go for.
I noticed that on the beach. Now, luckily, because of tattooing, I'm pretty stable where I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
But I have lowered my price before for people who I can tell really love it and can't afford my normal price. Like, if somebody like really, really gets it.
Okay. Yes. But if it's for someone that you believe that, but if it's for necessity, like if I don't get what this person is offering me, I'm not gonna pay rent this fucking month. Or I'm gonna be late.
You gotta prioritize like that sometimes, for sure.
Yeah. And it sucks. Luckily I'm not a full-time artist. I have a full-time job and I do this, with my spare time and pushing it. But I've had the luxury of not having to let it go for anything less than, because I can pay my rent with my daytime job right now.
Right.
But being in a full-time scenario and having that, like, how do you feel? Like I mean, you got to do what you got to do, but at the same time, are you doing a disjustice to yourself?
It really depends. Like like I said, it's always come down to, is somebody lowballing me because they don't see value in it, or are they lowballing me because of the fact that they just can't afford it, but they really do like it? And that's where it's a judgment call. Like, I've seen, like, my stuff's kind of a niche already, right? And there are people who really, really get it, you know, and somebody's like, wow, like I get it. And they've talked to me about it and they've explained it to me. And I have a bunch of paintings up at the tattoo shop and people will like talk to me about like what it is, you know, or what it means to them. And even if it's completely off base with like what my message is in the piece, but they still had such a strong reaction to it and really love that work of art. And I think that's like what every artist wants, you know?
Yeah.
It's like
you're willing to let it go because it's doing something for someone.
Exactly.
And that's ultimately so endearing when someone resonates, even if it's not the same wavelength or, you know, the same thought pattern, just the fact that it's causing an effect on someone else.
Yeah.
Any effect, whatever, anger, what, you know, happiness, or just.
Well, that's what art is, you know? You want to like use these things that you're creating to invoke some sort of an emotion.
Yeah.
You know? Some sort of an emotional
or something. Yeah. And when you really like break it down, man, and you really think about it, like you took something that was in your head, you put matter to it, you composed it a certain way, how it was in your head, and now someone walks up and looks at it, and now that is in their head. So you took an idea and you put it into someone else's head.
Transplant.
Yeah, and it's like when you really break it down, and then it's not just now, it's not just while you're alive.
Yeah.
Like as long as that fucking is physically existing, that's still gonna keep doing that. So now your thoughts are fucking living for a long ass time, or they're causing effects or causing people to think, or and that's fucking crazy. That always trips me out, you know. And you gotta leave something. You gotta leave something. You can't just, you know, do it with, like we were talking earlier, just for a greedy for the greediness of it, you know, just for the
like
money,
monetary gain or anything like that. There is like, and that's what it is, like the artists, like I said before, who are in it for that like short-term monetary gain. It's cool, you know, they've made money, you know, they might even come out with a concept that is artistically moving, but you know, if they start making their goal the sensationalism or the like, what is the best avenue for me to just keep this momentum and just keep making money off of it, you know, like you start to actually lose like a real like artistic integrity with it.
Yeah.
And that's not me saying, oh, if you're successful then you have no integrity. It's literally me just saying, you know, if you're only out there to just achieve this one thing, which is get like the money. Yeah. Then you're gonna like lose your soul. You're gonna
lose yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely gonna lose yourself. Even if, like you said, you're not saying that people who have money, that's what's happening.
Right. Because
that's not true. They, you know, just because they're getting money, you know, their motivations are completely different. But when your drive is only that money, it's you're not, your art's gonna reflect it eventually. I think so.
There's somebody I met that actually really put everything into a great perspective. And it was this girl from Australia, and all her life, all she ever wanted to do was be a mermaid, right? And this kind of sounds weird because, like, how could you ever be a mermaid, you know? It doesn't really matter. Like, you know, in this aspect, it's chasing a happiness as opposed to a monetary value, right? And this girl, all she ever wanted to do was be a mermaid, right? And her whole life, you know, I didn't get her full story, but I met her, and the only thing that she does now, she's a professional mermaid. And how? You know, she actually goes out and she takes these underwater photographs in these crazy, illustrious, like, you know, $13,000 tails that people make for her. And she takes like underwater photographs, and all the money like goes towards like wildlife foundations and things like that. And she gets like, that's her job. She works with these organizations, and they, you know, raise money for like underwater like preservation, things like that. And it's because she followed like her dream. She wanted to be a mermaid, you know, that's it. And she found it into a way, like, because she chased that happiness, what made her the happiest. She made it work, and she actually became successful because she followed that, as opposed to being like, how am I ever going to make money off of being a mermaid? I better go do something else, you know? It's like she just did that.
Yeah, the goal wasn't how am I ever gonna make money,
right?
And it's weird because we obviously grew up differently, but me and my family, money was always like an issue. You know, it was always, we never really had like a lot of money, so my parents paid so much importance to money because they had to, you know, and I always felt like they weren't happy. You know, yeah, go for it. Like they weren't happy, you know, like there was something that they were missing. You know, there was like no hobbies. There was no. Their drive was to survive, like to be, you know, just to make sure like I was fed and my family. Maybe that was their drive, but I didn't see like a drive like I do. Like I have a different, you know, thing that I want to accomplish. But I think it's because they did that, I'm able to have those thoughts, to be able to think of not just the survival instinct or how I'm going to eat. Like now I get to think of after I'm dead, after like this stuff. Like I get to think more of that because they couldn't, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't know if.
Well, I grew up in a similar situation. You know, and my dad, I get like all my creativity from my dad, hands down. And he's not like an artist per se, but he's very creative. You know, my mom would see something in a magazine, and as opposed to like spending money on it, he would find a way to build it or something.
Yeah, that's
you know?
how my
like,
dad.
Yeah.
He's like a handyman, like anything. He can fix anything. Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen him not fix anything.
Yeah, my dad was very good with that, you know, and stuff like that. But at the same time, he'd always fill me with the idea of like, oh, if you're going to do this, how are you going to make money off of it?
Yeah.
And it took a very long time for him to see that I was actually kind of successful just following like, you know, the ideas that I had as opposed to like worrying about how I was going to make the money. But, you know, I understand he had a family. Yeah. You know, like another reason I don't want kids. Yeah. But
okay, so you don't have kids. Oh, okay.
No kids here.
Yeah, me neither, man. That's.
But he had a family to support and stuff like that. So you start to get a little bit more used to being like, okay, well, if I'm going to spend time on this, I better make money to put food on the table for everybody. But luckily, I'm afforded the luxury of being, you know, by myself. I you know, can just worry about taking care of myself and then put more of my time into the things that I want to pursue. You know?
Yeah. And I think I was, and I could be completely wrong and stuff, which I might be, man. But analyzing all that, I always thought, like, not till recently, I was thinking like, I think a lot of the reason people become, you know, they have the whole midlife crisis and stuff like that, because they live their life based on a structure that someone set. And it might have worked, and it works for a lot of people, but it might not be your structure. It might not be the map for your life. But just because it's worked for a large percentage, like that's what people push. You know, they push for you to, example, hey, you got to go to elementary, you got to go to high school, you got to graduate, you got to go to college. After college, you got to get, you know, your career going. And then, you know, along those lines, you'll get, you know, your wife and all this stuff. It's like, this is the map. But that's not everybody's map. Right. Like, you don't have to have a kid at a certain age. Well, maybe women, but that's a whole different, you know, thing.
Biologically.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing. But, like, you don't really have to follow this map that people laid out for you. But you're so stressed that if you don't follow this map, you're not going to be happy. You're attaching happiness to following a formula somebody told you was going to work, was going to bring you happiness, instead of worrying about what makes you happy. Like, you're so worried about bills, about all this stuff, you don't even have time to think, hey, how do you feel today? How do you fucking feel today? How are you feeling? You know, and it's like, you don't have that luxury because, hey, I gotta pay fucking this tomorrow, I gotta make $60 for tomorrow or whatever, you know. And it's like, damn, like, when do you have time to think within yourself?
Well,
you know?
What's interesting too, because along the lines of what you're saying, there's you see an increase these days in what are they called, the specialized like elementary schools.
Okay, yeah. Like craft? No.
No, they're is it? I don't want to pronounce the name wrong. But anyways, there's a like an influx of those like elementary schools.
Specialty schools? No,
they're not a specialty school, but they are a school where it like encourages the kid to learn the way that they want to learn. Because, like when I was growing up, like everybody learned the same thing in the same way, Montessori schools is what they're
Montessori.
called. Okay. I believe.
First time I've heard it.
Yeah, I think they're Montessori schools, Montessori academies. But basically those schools like encourage the kid, if they want to learn math, they learn it through this certain thing. And it kind of like pushes them towards like their interests. And what's interesting, especially like when my dad went to college, it was not only a lot cheaper than what like in our day and age, but college back then in like the like 70s or all the way like 60s through the 80s, they were kind of more like
those schools.
No, not well, kind of in the comparison of it's like they gave you the ability to start like learning who you were. It's like college was kind of designed to be this big facility housing many different interests, housing many different things. It's like, you weren't exposed to in high school or previous education, where it's like you got there and then you got to discover yourself.
Yeah, you
got to learn who you were, right? Yeah. But nowadays, you need to know what you want to do right out of high school. Yeah. You have to decide what you want to be for the rest of your life out of high school, because if you go to college for the wrong thing, you're wasting money and time. And it wasn't always like that. College used to be the place where you learned who you were and learned what made you happy and what you could see yourself being happy doing for the rest of your life.
I didn't think about that, man.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
Now it's not.
Because it's so expensive.
Now every college is essentially a trade school.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Because I graduated when I was 17.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh shit, you graduated early.
Yeah, but just because I'm born in December and stuff like that. Yeah, so it's the technical whatever. But basically, what 17 or 18-year-old knows what they want to do for the rest of their life.
Dude, I don't even know myself right now. I'm fucking 30.
Right.
I don't know. Like, I know things about me, but I don't think I think that's one of the reasons too I don't want kids yet.
Yeah.
Because people think, oh yeah, once you have a kid, you'll pick it up, you'll know what to do. But it's not that simple. It's not I'm not raising a dog. I'm not raising a little animal. I'm raising a conscious being. How do I know the way I was raised or the way I'm thinking now is the right way for them to learn, Now I'm just making assumptions when I don't even have enough life experiences to teach a child the important stuff, not the wash your hands, all this stuff. Yeah, that comes easy. You pick up. But the important stuff, like what if he's dealing with certain things and I've never even experienced those things? How the hell am I supposed to?
Exactly.
The utter hopelessness of trying to help someone with something you don't understand.
Right, you're only limited by your own experiences.
Yeah, and it's dude, like it's not as easy as you guys make it seem. It's not as easy, and it's like,
you lead to those midlife crises.
Yeah,
where it's like now you've dedicated yourself to another person before you really realized who you were.
Yeah,
and those crises occur because you need to figure out who you are now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Those crises wouldn't exist if we were given the proper time, and I think that's especially like as artists, we're kind of more in tune with that, because since each piece that we're making is a piece of ourselves, we're constantly thinking about like what's happening internally.
Yeah, that's how
we're growing. But when people are focused on the external or don't have that outlet, then they don't grow.
What? You're following You're becoming a cookie mold, or you're in the cookie cutter, like you're someone, you understand that person so much because it's your neighbor. It's the same person your neighbor is, and that's why people talk about the same shit every day, because that's the routine. You come home from work, you watch movies, you go to bed, you do the same routine again. But what experiences are you adding into your life? You'll go to vacation once a year. You're not gonna know yourself quick enough before you die.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
It would be quite sad to be laying on the deathbed and realizing that you never really knew yourself.
Yeah.
You missed out on certain things like that. But it's really easy to reverse, and that's just spontaneity.
Yeah.
Like spontaneity keeps the zest of life. You kind of you gotta break outside the mold, or break outside the routine rather, and it's
so weird, dude, because I struggle with not breaking out of the routine but building routines, and I know I need to have a balance of both, man.
Oh, yeah.
I need to have a certain discipline, and I've always been so I'll deal with it at the time. I'll deal with it as it comes. It's like, dude, I'm doing on the opposite spectrum the same thing. I'm hindering myself. Dude, you gotta have a balance of both, because then you're not gonna get forward. You're just dealing with stuff as they come, but you're taking one step forward, back. You're not really going anywhere.
There was a movie that they made us watch in 7th grade in my middle school, and I can't remember what it was called. And this doesn't sound really terrible cultural appropriation, but they had Keanu Reeves playing Buddha, and it was a
really Keanu Reeves,
Reeves,
young Keanu Reeves,
young Keanu Reeves, and he was playing Buddha, and basically there was a line that always stuck with me for some reason, and it was just an old proverb that was basically a string wound too tight won't play, but a string too loose, or a string too loose won't play, but a string wound too tight will snap. Right, and I always carried that with me, where it's you're saying you need to develop a routine. It is important to have those things and a structure in your life. It can't all be chaos.
Yeah,
but you can't have nothing. Yeah,
and then or else you'll snap. Yeah, and people snap all the fucking time.
Yeah, people snap
all the time, dude. That's crazy. I was
So shout out to Keanu Reeves.
Oh, shout out Keanu Reeves
and Buddha.
Follow us. Follow us. And this Terrence McKenna, he has I always recommend this video. It's called The Doors of Creativity, and it's a lecture he did for a art museum. And he did this, it was 3-hour lecture or whatever. But he talks about the importance of the creative individual, the artist, And one of the things he says in there, and it resonates so much with me, or it made sense, but I've never thought about it in that way. Where he's artists have a responsibility to the world, because they are the only people who have permission to explore the irrational without being thought of as insane. And I was oh shit, that does make sense. Because people don't think, if you tell someone, hey, this is what I'm seeing right now, out of a contest of art, people will be hey, are you okay, man?
Yeah.
You okay? But because you're an artist, people, it's you're guiding them into this reality, or into this world, hey, it's okay, I see this, it's okay, just here, it's you're guiding someone, and it's oh shit, I never thought about it the way he phrased it. You have a responsibility because you're the only one that can do that. You can see that, not everybody can. It
makes me think of Hieronymus Bosch or Peter Bruegel the Elder, with their pieces. They're from the 1500s and stuff like that, and they had these crazy, I'm a huge fan, they had these crazy hellish landscapes and huge broken eggs and these things that could only be described as these futuristic space buildings. Shit. And there's some famous ones where it's depictions of the Black Plague or something. Oh, or really? A lot of them are religious depictions of hell. and stuff like that, right? And they were operating under the guise of like these religious themes.
Yeah.
But they had to, they would have been burned at the stake for being like witches or something, you know?
Yeah.
But like they were operating under that guise because of the fact that they had to, you know, like they had to get these things out. They had to demonstrate and, like you said, like kind of push that reality, you know, that they were experiencing, but they had to be careful about it.
Yeah, they had to, you know, not. Man, that's crazy, dude.
Otherwise, I would have been burned at the stake.
Yeah, because you know how they tell you, like, if you see something you've never seen in your life, and it's so like traumatizing, you won't see it. Like, it's blind to you because you have, like, the way your mind works now, you create based on things you know. You know, like, you know, so there's the whole theory that if we were to see aliens, we would not see them because they would be so unfathomable. We couldn't make connections. The only reason we make connections now is because there's little pictures of little green men or whatever. But, you know, if you've never seen it before and this is the first time it's ever been glimpsed at by your brain, you might not, you know, see it. And like, maybe artists are creating these visions and like, because they're getting them out there and people are seeing them, like more realities are becoming available to people, you know?
You see it?
Oh. No, go.
Oh,
I'm working on it.
I was gonna say you see it in like when people expand upon the H.P. Lovecraft mythos.
Yes.
And they have like the elder beast described. Like, you know, he would say these things are undescribable, you know, or unfathomable, like and unperceivable to the human mind. But, you know, people expand upon it, and when they like illustrate or make videos including it,
and they gave it up.
They see it, and then their like mind explodes, like their eyes like ignite and stuff like that, and their brain explodes. But it's kind of similar.
Kind of similar, yeah. Dude,
you can't process the information.
Are you gonna go see that new movie, Color of Space?
Oh, they're making it into a movie?
I think it's out pretty soon. Nicolas Cage and
it's the Color Out of Space.
Color Out of Space, yeah.
I want to see it. I mean,
dude, it looks really pretty cool. I mean, I'm not a big Nicolas Cage fan.
Yeah, that's one.
He's
thing
kind of a little extra with his acting, but hey, it might work for an H.P. Lovecraft. You know, he might sell it, but he might ruin it. So I don't know.
That is one of his classic tales too. So. Which be really good. Color Out of Space.
I'm never. I just started reading Lovecraft because my wife got into his stuff.
They have all of his stuff on YouTube, like books on tape. So I'll put it on when I paint for sure. Yeah, like I'll sit there and listen to all of them. It's incredible, and it's dense because it's kind of like what you were describing, the Baroque style.
Yeah.
And he's very Baroque. Yeah,
super extra, and the way he. Because there's like not a formula, but like a basic structure that he would follow where he would like add like 2 or 3 adjectives or whatever.
In every sentence. And then take you out of it, like existentially add something to it where now your mind plays to those. I saw it described at one point, but I was like, man, that is crazy. Because when you really read the sentence, if you're following it logically, it paints a picture, but then the last part of that sentence lets you finish that picture. You know, it lets your imagination finish it. I don't know. It's he gets a lot of criticism for his writing style because he, like, with his life, he grew up reading books out of his grandfather's library. His father died when he was young. He grew up, and his grandfather had this like illustrious library. But they were all writings from the early 1800s, right? So it's like he grew up reading like Edgar Allan Poe and stuff like that, and then like he was obsessed with like the 1800s like gentleman kind of like writings and stuff like that.
Wasn't he a xenophobe too? So that kind of
he was kind of racist and xenophobic, and you know.
So that also so he was kind of paranoid a little bit.
He was super paranoid.
So that probably like that xenophobe,
but it was influenced from that 1800s ideologies. Those thinkings and like the diminishing diminishment of like, you know, the gentleman like structure, stuff like that. But in a different note, like his stuff was that 1800s writing style, you know, and he gets a lot of criticism because it was so over the top and wordy with adjectives. And then another major criticism with people who dislike him is he would write a lot like first person kind of thing. And then like, you know, a lot of his stuff would be like, and then I hear them coming up the stairs, their claws are dragging on the ground and ... It's the cult of, you know, and then like a bunch of exclamation points, and then that's the end.
Yeah.
You know, so there was a lot of like first person kind of writing that people like really bash him for. But, you know, a lot of his stuff like was only ever published in pulp magazines, like sci-fi pulp.
Yeah.
You know,
stuff. It's so crazy, dude. And I mean, he was, you know, the xenophobia and the racism and stuff, like that's a bad part of him or whatever, but like it doesn't take anything away from his creation, his, you know. Well,
you could fault somebody for being a product of their time, you know, like by today's standards, like, yeah, you know, that's pretty bad. And like even back then, if you were somebody of like a lighter mind or something, you'd be like, yeah, that's pretty messed up.
Yeah.
But, you know, like people like Dr. Seuss are racists, you know, stuff like that. You know, Dr. Seuss was super xenophobic, very racist. He even came out later in life being like, man, like I wish I didn't make these, you know, political cartoons of the Japanese, you know, but we were at war and stuff like that.
That's what was,
and that was the like social thinking,
product of your
know,
society.
But there are certain things where it's like, when does somebody's work like overshadow maybe some of their personal beliefs? You know, you see some of like the xenophobia in some of his earlier work, and then even in one of the last things that he did, which was Shadow over Innsmouth. But, you know, he was kind of embarrassed about that one because he went through points in his life, too, where he started traveling a lot and he got over it. And he grew.
Wasn't he married to a Jewish woman? And wasn't he supposedly...
Yeah, and he was supposedly an anti-Semite.
Like and it's like, okay, you know,
but maybe he got over it, and she actually pushed him to travel and stuff like that too.
So you would see him grow as a person,
right,
as well.
You know, so I mean, you like, you know, you could see anybody from history and be like, yeah, this person was like this, you know, but you know what he created and what he contributed to like the creative force overshadows those things completely. You know?
I mean, isn't he's in any horror, anything like H.P. Lovecraft is like, like the Da Vinci or whatever, you know, like maybe not Da Vinci, but like
he created his own genre, you know, and how many people can say that? You know, it's really hard. Like every artist wants to be their own genre. You know, there are very few artists who do it. Like, you know, even like some of the biggest or most popular, like Andy Warhol created his own genre. Basquiat created his own genre. Picasso made his own genre. Dali created his own genre, although he was working with a bunch of people doing it. But
they're credited for the actual.
He's the poster child. He's like created the most of those styles of work. You know, very influential. By H.P. Lovecraft, he created cosmic horror, and cosmic horror was the first time in the horror genre where somebody did not have the protection of religion involved in their story, which is an interesting concept where it's like in like Dracula or something like that, right? It's like people have like the grace of God.
Yeah.
You're always protected by the divine spirit. His ideas were God doesn't exist. The only gods that exists are these elder beasts that are so ancient and so massive in comparison to our insignificance that they could care less
about us.
You know, there are these evil entities that are always trying to get at us, and the things that really have supreme verdict and supreme power could not care less. They're indifferent to us.
Yeah.
You know, and that was so unsettling as a whole, you know, in a cosmic stream, that, you know, it was so much more unsettling and unnerving and more horrific. Because no matter what, like, you always had the grace of God to protect you as long as you were good and pure of heart. Well, in this universe, there's nothing protecting you.
Yeah.
You know, the only things that have real power just couldn't care less.
I've had those thoughts, like when I did mushrooms like a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah.
And I had those like thoughts of like, damn, like I like to think I am very connected with my loved ones, and all that, but deep down, like, if anything goes down, it's me in my head, and that's it. Like, when you really think about it, you're alone, and like, if your mind wanders into these realms or these thought processes, like, no one's gonna help you back. Like, you got there on your own. No one's gonna help you back. Like, you better fucking tread lightly. And that's why I was like, oh, like, I better be. Obviously, I was a little like cautious about it because of the whole mushroom stuff, but I was like, fuck, like, go slow. Don't fucking dive in there just yet. Like, you know, understand certain things. Like, this is the first time you're feeling this shit. Like,
well, psychedelics definitely help, like, kind of unravel your psyche, or let you like really self-reflect,
man.
You know?
You've done them?
Yeah, okay. Done everything. Well, most things.
Yeah.
There were a few things I never really messed with, but in high school I had a huge experimentation phase. When I first got to college I experimented pretty hard. But you know, it's interesting because you know, art, or a lot of like the drugs and stuff like that, especially in a very specific acid trip I can remember. I was like walking around, like I would love to do it, and then walk around outside, go on a nature hike or something like that.
Because of the fucking vibes, huh? Like, the little energy shit?
The energy, and then also like I could stare at any like random patch of dirt on the ground, and like I would be like, wow, if I just took this like little square of dirt and like put it on a gallery wall, it would be beautiful.
Yeah,
you know,
like, you saw the beauty in things.
So the psychedelics only ever became, like, for me, like a gateway into like the sudden realization that like art is everything, and everything is art, and like art's also like everything to me, you know. So it's like I really like put that lens on everything, where everything is art. And it was just beautiful. And, you know, even if you take that square of dirt, you know, its specific composition, or what it was built up out of, is not deliberate, but an artistic process to get there. You know, if you want to really break it down, right?
Try to replicate that fucking patch of dirt.
Right.
It's not replicable. Like, it's a unique thing. Like, no two plants are the same. No. You know, two humans are identical.
So it's a silly example, but you got to be able to like laugh at it, and also just like really any kind of experimentation like that just kind of takes something real away from it. Like yourself, where you had that realization. You know, it's like it's down to you. You know, and that makes you a little bit more serious about life sometimes.
Yeah, dude. After that trip, man, that's when I figured out like my purpose here, man. Yeah, like I figured out like what my purpose to all this art is. Like, what do I want? Like. You know, and it wasn't during the trip. Like, it's totally after. The other day I was talking about how, I don't know if you've gotten a chance to watch like a movie on mushrooms or on LSD.
Sometimes,
you know, or a TV show, or even after a trip. Like, you start to make connections in these movies with the way you're feeling, or certain feelings that you felt during the trip. And it's like, oh, wow, this movie, like, if you change like this, or if this means this, then this movie had a big influence by psychedelics, you know, when you really break it down. I was like, why am I making these connections? And it's because of my feelings at the time. They don't go away like after the trip. Like, that's what makes you self-reflect. You start thinking of how you felt during that, all the thoughts that you created, the new thoughts you created. And it's like, I don't know.
I do have like in exactly what you're talking about. Like I did some psychedelics, and then watched like my favorite Tarantino movie, which is Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
The reason it's my favorite is, you know, he has like that ultra violent style and stuff like that. Lots of gore, stuff like that. And it's cool, but I think his real power is just dialogue.
The dialogue.
You know, and Reservoir Dogs is just straight dialogue. It's just a bunch of characters. And it's interesting because the very visual kind of like diagram that I created, you know, in my mind, which has stuck with me, is this, what I can describe as a straight line that has a big circle in the center, right? You know, so there's a point A and a point B, the beginning of the movie, the end of the movie. But then as you go along, not only does it have like a basic timeline tangents, but revolving around that circular dial in the center, there's a bunch of stories that are stuck like little rays off of a sunbeam.
Yeah, because it goes back, right? It
kind of goes through, and then everything starts sticking into it, where it's like you get to this like the apex of the movie, and all the stories start to combine from that timeline. It's incredible, you know. But you know, as wonderful and as much of a eureka moment as I thought it was, you know, probably doesn't sound it, you know, because I could see it in my mind.
Yeah, and it's so hard to describe to people, right?
It's very hard, but like you said, it's all emotion.
Yeah,
like I felt like I figured it out, and it's cool. I made that connection where it's like I could see how this movie was developed in my own kind of fashion. But what that really leads to is it got me thinking about how I would do something like that. You know, it's like if I want to make a story, how could I kind of use this dial that I created in my own mind to generate it?
Yeah. This map that you saw, this emotional map you saw in this movie.
Yeah, it opens you up to this whole different way of thinking.
Yeah. No, and the way you like tune into the characters' emotions, even though they're acting, like you become involved in the movie where you feel not exactly what they're feeling, but it becomes more understandable. You know, you're not assuming this is how this person feels. You know, like everything that happens in the movie that causes this person to feel it, it's almost like you feel it a little before that character, or like when that character says it, you're like, oh yeah, that describes exactly what I would feel if that would happen to me. You know, you become involved in that reality or whatever,
as long as they're a good actor.
Yeah, of course.
I've watched a bunch of movies. I've watched a bunch of movies off of like the Sci-Fi Channel or something. There's this one in particular that was called Raptor Island.
Oh my god, that already sounds horrible.
It was bad. There was almost no raptors on that island. First off,
Raptor Island.
Yeah, and then when they finally did show a raptor, its guts were like made out of like just clear tubing and stuff. You know, real low budget. But the actors in that movie, I was not feeling anything they were feeling.
Wow.
The whole time I just kept shouting, too many actors, not enough raptors.
That's funny. And then they don't even expand any of the characters or anything?
No character development.
Damn, dude. Yeah. No, definitely it has to be a good movie.
Raptor Planet was another one on that.
Raptor Planet?
Raptor Planet.
Have you seen Sorry to Bother You?
No.
I saw that one on mushrooms, and I don't think that was a good movie to watch on mushrooms.
What was it about?
It's so trippy. It's this black actor who like moves up his way up like a company by doing like a telemarketing company by doing the white voice.
Huh.
You know, so like the person when he's talking at work, he's talking. It's not him. They're not the actor talking. It's like a white voiceover.
Okay.
You know?
But the concept is that he's using a white voice at work to
and that's how he's progressing. You know, he's kind of like, I don't know, the way they made it seem like he's selling out. And then the company like creates this drug that turns people into horse people. It's such a weird movie, dude.
Horse people.
And it's like they're just horse people that talk, and it's like,
what's the benefit of them being horses?
They work more. They're like workhorses, so they're like, you know, stronger, all this stuff. But
how do they? And they can speak regular.
They can speak. It's so trippy. It's such a weird, and the way it's laid out, I thought it was because of the trip.
Kind of sounds funny.
It's stacked weird. It's funny, dude. It's supposed to be a funny movie, but when I was watching it, I was like, "What the fuck is going on with this movie?
Yeah,
like how did the horse people come into this movie? You know?"
And all of a sudden, there are horse people.
Yeah, and that was like, and at the end, he's a horse person. Like, I don't know.
Did they introduce the horse people like everybody's like standing at the water cooler, and then all of a sudden, like a horse in a tie comes over? No, he like
discovered them in the laboratory, so extra scary. Okay. And the horse person was like, "Kill me!" Blah blah blah. Like, so it was like, I was like, "Oh shit!" Like this is, you know, but it was like, the message was like, you're so involved in moving your way up this system or this corporate ladder where you lose yourself as a person and you start to become this workhorse they want you to be. You know, like you shun out friends, you shun out like what's right because of the money. you know, because of this status that you believed was what was going to bring you, you know, fulfillment or whatever. At least that's what I interpret it from it. I don't know if that's
I'll be the first to say on record here that movies that are specifically made to be trippy are like the worst things you should try to watch when you're tripping.
Yeah,
It's watch a normal movie because that's trippy enough, but don't watch something that's meant to melt your mind
for real,
because it will destroy you.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I didn't know what it was. I went in there like not knowing. I was like, oh, whatever, it's gonna be a funny movie, you know. But because I was fighting the trip, dude.
Yeah,
I wasn't comfortable, and I was like fighting it, and I wasn't just letting go. So I was trying to distract myself, and I distracted myself with like the worst thing to distract myself with.
Yeah, I remember like doing acid, and then like one of my buddies was like, "Oh, I want to watch The Wall, the Pink Floyd movie."
Oh, because
and I was like, "I've seen it a million times. It's cool, and it's just so dark, and it's a heavy thing. You're watching somebody's life crumble, and then there's a bunch of dark imagery and war animations and death, and you know, drug abuse and stuff like that. And then by the end, I was like, oh, you know, you're shuddering because your mind's susceptible at that point.
Yeah, you
don't want to put a bunch of dark shit in there.
For real, I avoided horror movies for a while.
Oh yeah,
before I took the trip, because I was like, I don't want to fill my head with shit that I'm gonna deal with in there. You know, I was just like, I'll watch some happy shit. I'll read some shit, like, and I don't know. It's weird. I want to do it again, man. I want to do it again, but like, it's not something you do all the time, you know? Like, no. I don't think you can. Maybe you can. I can't.
The key to life is always like, what's it called? Key to life is
balance.
No, not balance. I'm at a loss for words.
I've lost so many words in this conversation, man.
Moderation.
Yes,
yeah. Just if you're gonna do it, just do it a little bit.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you start forgetting all your words. Like that just happened right there.
Yeah, man. Tell me about it. I always think a little more ahead than how I'm speaking, and then I lose the words that I want to say. You know.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh fuck, how do I explain this without sounding like an idiot? You know. I think I sometimes overthink it, or I'm feeling it, and then like I don't know how to articulate it properly.
Yeah,
you know, or to find the right words to articulate it.
It's always dark when you're on camera or on film or on, you know, record saying something, and then you completely lose your point halfway through.
Yeah,
and
dude.
then you're just like and then you just keep reiterating the same point in case you like can finally find your way back.
Dude, I do that a lot in this stupid podcast. I that's why I'm trying to do the solo ones. So I kind of get a little more used to speaking and like articulating my thoughts, but I speak myself into a corner, man.
Yeah, but it's kind of fun at the same time.
And you said you do like TV stuff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do the artist segments on Road Dogs TV.
Road Dogs TV.
Yeah, so it's on it's a basic cable TV show that highlights like art and music, local artists, local musicians, kind of like it's all pretty fun, you know, like a lot of varied like talent comes on. There's even like a hip hop section, stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's
with
cool.
Some people or a group called the Hustleaholics run the hip hop corner, which is cool. But yeah, we're on like it's Padnet TV, YouTube, and then channel 41 Verizon and 32 on Charter.
Oh, yeah. Okay. If you give me that info, I'll put it in the description, man.
Yeah.
Just give them a shout out and stuff. And how long have you been doing that for now?
Probably like, I'd say total time like 2 years.
Okay.
But you know, I've been associated with them for I don't know, like 4 years.
4 years.
But you know, I go on and off, you know. I'm not like as active as I could be with it, you know, but when I find like an artist who I would really like to promote, I'll bring them on there.
Dope. That's super cool, man.
Because they do a taping every month.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll get involved like every couple months, when I really find like an artist who I'm like, oh, I'd love to highlight some of your work and stuff like that.
Oh, that's dope, dude. So you understand the importance of experiencing different art styles, different artists, and like just being involved and like kind of speaking and breaking it down and like having these like what is it? What would you say it's called? Like an exposition or like
just really getting like pick another person's brain,
Yeah, man.
Kind of coming up. Usually with my format, I'll like devise a bunch of questions. I'll say, hey, that I've created these questions. Are there any things that you don't want me to ask you about specifically? And or any of these questions that don't look good to you. I'll kind of give some things ahead of time. Or, sometimes I'll wing it a little bit more, if I'm more comfortable with the person. But usually, along those like specifically engineered questions, I can get down to like somebody's process.
Yeah.
I can get down to like somebody's like real message or what their goals are or what makes like a piece successful to them, if they feel successful, things that like I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And like getting all those different elements from like different viewpoints is like really like
it makes it more cohesive, right? Yeah, like it's not structured, but like it flows more. Like you're trying to avoid these like.
Well, beyond that too, like it helps like me, like like I start learning like what kind of builds up like a great interview and things like that, and I get those like little elements from like what was successful, what wasn't, and then the artists tend to have like a really good time because they like find that structure too. It's like they see that I'm really like pushing them with some questions that make them open up about things that they didn't even know were important to them.
That's and that's so like that's the fun part. That's like a fun part. I don't think I'm doing that properly, but I think I'm understanding it a little more.
I like your format, sitting and working on some art, just kind of shooting the shit about it. But you've been getting in. We've been getting into it too. So
I think it eases people like not having the structure. I think it helps. I think because it's so long form, we don't really need to get down to specific subjects right away because it's so long. Is yours long form?
Like what's that? It's only usually about like 15 minutes.
15 minutes, yeah. So that's why you need that structure because you want them to represent properly themselves. Right. Yeah,
and then we're also like cutting it with a bunch of music videos and stuff like that. So the total interview we want like a good 5 minutes or something.
Yeah.
But the last one that I did, I interviewed one of my friends. Him and I have been like working together. He actually collaborated on the drawing that I'm working on right here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Can I see it?
Yeah, of course.
It's charging.
I'll just pull that out for now.
Okay.
But feel free. There's a lot of details in here, and it's not quite done yet. But it's this like one huge character.
Save it before I touch.
Oh, yeah, no ways. It's this one big character, and he has like feel free to get in there, and all the touch is off, so you can't make marks with your fingers. Yeah. But he's about to like eat a lobster, and I created like a landscape for his bib and everything. He's kind of it was a lot of fun, but it was a collaboration. So I interviewed my buddy. His name's Jared Blunk. Yeah, and just the other day, him and I created a pilot of our cartoon show.
Oh, dope!
Yeah,
dude, you're doing a cartoon?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah.
What's it called?
It's called Sick Whales.
Sick Whales?
Yeah, and if you go YouTube, Sick Whales Male Mishap is the pilot episode.
Dope, dude! I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
I'll add it to the description on here.
Yeah, it's got some like kind of fun elements. It's like kind of meant to be like a parody of like 90s cartoons, and even has some like references to like Ninja Turtles. But everybody who's viewed it so far, I just released it yesterday, said that it's very much like kind of Ren and Stimpy-ish. So
what, dude? I love Ren and Stimpy.
Oh yeah,
that's dope, dude. I'm gonna have to check it out. That's so cool, dude.
It's got some good jabs in there.
Ha, dude, that's awesome. I always wanted to make a cartoon, but you're about it, man. Hell yeah.
Yeah, finally. I mean, it was like 6 months of work to get a good 5-minute episode.
Dude, like what's the timeline? The normal timeline? Is it like 6 months for one episode on like a normal network or a normal? Like...
Usually like a year. they do it a year ahead of time.
Crazy.
Like I know that my ex-girlfriend, one of her cousin worked on Adventure Time.
Oh,
and they said they would like make it, or they would like do all the storyboarding and stuff like that, and then send it to China for animation, and then they would get it a year later for its air date.
damn.
So it would take a full year with like a building of people working on Adventure Time, you know?
Yeah, dude, and that's all kinds of storyboard artists. And
So I'm not gonna lie, ours is kind of rough. It's still like right in between the animatic animation state, but you know, the writing is there.
Yeah, that's what I'm. Man, 4x4 piece you were gonna bring wouldn't have fit, huh?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it would have been way too big.
Yeah, we probably would have got.
You would have been able to see.
Because
like
I think that's 4x4, no?
Yeah, that looks like a
4x. It might have fit, but not the whole thing.
I think that looks like it might be 3.5.
Yeah, because that's 40" by 40", so it's at like 3.5. Yeah.
Oh, it's hidden by the picture of the finished mural. So I started storyboarding. Huh, maybe it's not even in that stack. Is it in here? Oh, this one was super Lovecraftian.
Okay.
Working on it. And see, it needs
sick,
a lot of
dude.
work, but that was getting kind of cool.
And this is the cartoon?
No.
Oh, this is one of your pieces. I was like, dude, you're going crazy with the cartoon.
That's just one that I was doodling with.
That's dope.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll develop into something that I can really make into a piece, but we'll see.
Yeah, I like that atmospheric perspective because it gives it depth.
Let's see what happened to. So you can animate and Procreate and everything too.
Oh yeah, cool. Is that a recent update? That is a recent update, no?
Yeah,
that's dope. Dude.
So the whole cartoon is animated in Procreate.
Sick. That is so cool. Like people can like create their stuff at a notebook size computer, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Technology. I always tell people like use all the tools you got. They're just tools for your creativity. Like
exactly.
Use it. You know? I tell people to use Photoshop all the time. Like that saves you so much time. Use it. Like get the idea out.
You can create your whole like composition in it essentially if you really need to.
Yeah.
The same thing like in tattooing too. A lot of people are like, oh, only use the traditional coil machines, and then there's a lot of people who are like, no, like use rotary machines too, or people use both. But there is like a division between people who are like all coil and only coil, and then like
only rotary
and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a rotary one. I had what was it? The Cheyenne
the pen.
No, I had the Hawk, I think.
Oh yeah, that's a good machine.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I had tattoo artist friends, so they're like, dude, just start off with this one.
So there's like an example of a piece of a storyboard.
Oh, dope. That's
actually for the next episode. That is a commercial, because in the show Sick Whales, a major character is the television. I think because since it's supposed to be 90s, I feel like something that I was most influenced by are commercials and TV and stuff like that. So we made the television a major character, where it's like a lot of the humor and sketches kind of take place in commercials or television shows that they're watching.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, so in that storyboard in particular, it's for a commercial that's called the Ribbits and Ribbits commercial. And it starts with
Are these frog legs?
Yes.
They're frog legs.
So that's the end of the commercial. And basically the way that it starts is it's two brothers, and they're like, hi, you know, I'm Tim and Jonathan Ribbons, and here at Ribbons and Ribbons, and they're in front of like a storefront of some kind that just says Ribbons and Ribbons, you know, Tim and Jonathan Ribbons. They're like, here, Ribbons and Ribbons, we have a lot of ribbons, you know, all these lengths of ribbons, this color, you know, not to be confused with Rivets and Rivets. And then it goes to another set of brothers, and it's like, hi, I'm Al and Larry Rivets. Here at Rivets and Rivets, we have a bunch of distinction. Rivets, you know, and it's like a bunch of like metal rivets, right?
Yeah.
And then it goes to not to be confused with Ribbits and Ribbits. And then it goes to just Ribbits and Ribbits, which is one brother, and he's like, while they were very energetic in the previous two commercials, he's very like downtrodden. He's like, "Hi, I am Mortimer Ribbits, sole owner and operator of Ribbits and Ribbits freeze-dried frog fries."
Damn.
Yeah,
dude,
and
funny.
he goes on and he's like, due to the recent passing of his brother, he is including 5 packets of golden tartar sauce inside 5 packages of freeze-dried frog fries. So like a Willy Wonka kind of thing. And then the commercial ends with him giving a glimpse of some of the wonders that will take place
that's cool.
in his factory.
Do you expand into it?
So that's what this is actually a storyboard for, is it's a bunch of these small kind of bug-like characters who are dumping buckets of live frogs into a big pulverizer. And then the pulverizer is shooting them out into like this weird frog paste, right? And then they're getting stamped by a perfect like flat iron skillet that's in the shape of a frog leg. Yeah, so they come out as a paste. It stamps them into a perfect frog leg, and then the end is these weird kind of like what I could describe as like if it was a kind of a hairy, like abominable snowman, but they've been working in a factory, so they're all sweaty and stuff, and then they just breathe on it and they freeze dry them. And then that's the end.
And that's how they make it. So it's like a nugget looking frog leg.
They look like frog legs,
but it's like how you would make nuggets,
like
just
a chicken nugget.
Yeah,
exactly.
Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah. So the commercials
cool.
have some big parts in as far as the sketches go.
That's dope, and it's always those. It's what's the characters like your the people watching the TV.
So the main characters are the sick whales themselves, which are a crime-fighting team of whales. But they, most of the time, the missions they get called onto are bogus, so they end up watching TV.
Oh.
Kind of like Aqua Teen Hunger Force in that way.
Oh, okay.
Where it's like they once like went out to do stuff, but now they just kind of chill. Yeah. So because I love Aqua Teen too, but so there's 4 whales. Gusher, which is a big humpback whale, and he's kind of old and kind of crotchety.
Mm-hmm.
And I do 3 voices on the show, and my buddy Jared, he does like 7 voices on the show.
Dude.
He voices most of the whales. I only voice 1.
Oh, okay.
But he's just really good with voices. Like it's incredible. But so there's Gusher, the humpback whale, who's kind of like the older one, kind of like the leader.
Uh-huh.
Then there's Taser, who's an orca whale, who's like the stoner kind of surfer, kind of in his 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Sharp, who I'm the voice of, who's a narwhal, and he's kind of like the geeky, like know-it-all, like 14-year-old whale. And then there's the little kid who's like 6 or 7. His name's Raz, and he's this tiny little sperm whale. And so it's pretty good.
Do you have images of the characters? I would love to see them.
I think most of them are on.
You clear out
I think
space.
there's only 2 of them laughing. There's only 2 of them laughing here because I did a lot of the commercials.
Yeah.
All the commercials are kind of done in more my style.
Uh-huh.
And then a lot of the whales are done in Jared's style. So they're kind of left like big, like colorful.
Yeah.
And,
Dude, that looks dope.
Yeah. So people who've seen the show already said it's like very stylized, which is cool.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
And it's really fun.
Yeah. And the writing, man, like you said, like right now, you're the fact that you did it at that time, it's for 5 minutes. You did it
in the 6 months.
6 months. Like,
yeah.
It's, and you're doing it yourself. It's not, I don't think people realize how difficult it is to animate, and there's so many layers, so many frames.
It's
right?
tricky. Here's another classic animation from it.
What is that, a booty hole?
So basically, the way that this commercial came about is me and the same guy, Jared, we created a board game, actually. Like in real life. We created a board game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I have all the images of that because it was all done on here. But we created a board game. We've actually like shopped it around to different companies, stuff like that. And then a lot of them said like to start getting like crowdsourcing.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, I'll show you the board of it right here. So this has already been done. It's all professionally printed, really created. Like, yeah, I have the full model and everything of it. But everything's been professionally done. I even gave a gift of one for Christmas. But I usually bring it to some of my art shows and stuff and have people play, and it's all been like great feedback.
Dude, that looks cool. And like, what's the objective of the game?
The objective, so it's to the pit, and the objective is to get out of the pit.
So you start off in the center.
You start out in the pit, but it's to the pit because a lot of spaces send you back to the pit. So people love getting drunk, playing it, and screaming, "To the pit!"
Oh,
you know,
shit,
so it's like
dude.
the kind of like whimsical, like hell-based kind of theme. But as you go along, you collect body parts, and once you have like a full like head, torso, and legs, you can trade in a full body as opposed to having to go back to the pit.
What? That's so cool, dude.
So it's really fun. It's a good like mix of styles. If you go back to the gallery too, you can actually see all the like different card art and stuff.
Dude, that's so cool. And you how many stacks of card decks or whatever?
So 2 decks of cards, all the body parts, and then all these like to the pit cards. So anytime you are sent back to the pit with a space, you have to get a to the pit card. And a lot of the cards can either like do something really bad to you, do something really good for you, or just be completely useless.
What's the amount of players?
I found that a really good number is like 3 to 6.
3 to 6.
Yeah.
Dope.
Wow.
Would you be willing to play this on the podcast?
Of course, yeah. Yeah, those are some of the bodies. So you can see at the bottom, they're separated into the 3 pieces.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but those are like examples of the different bodies and stuff like that. So it's really, really fun.
Dude.
Played it a bunch. But the reason I bring it up, because it seems like a tangent, the reason I bring it up is because the animation you just saw with the fisting of that butt was we were trying to figure out another game to make. We were like, oh, do we want to make like games or something? And we were like, what if we were brainstorming game ideas, and we're like, what if there's a game where it's just a prosthetic butt and you roll a die. Yeah, you roll a die and you put on this glove, a Velcro glove, and whatever the number is, you get to fist it that many times, and you're trying to get all the balls out of it. Balls, right? You know? And then we're like, and the name of the game will be Fist Your Balls Out.
Fist Your Balls Out. Damn, dude.
Like, and then
you gotta definitely fucking kickstart that shit. I bet you.
When we really thought about it, we decided it wouldn't be as good of a game as we thought.
Why?
It's just kind of weird. We were like, who do we want to sell this to? Like,
what would be? Yeah, what would the demographic
be? So that didn't end up happening. But we're like, it's such a funny idea that let's make a fake commercial for it in Sick Whales. Yeah. So in the first episode, the ending sequence is commercial for the game Fist Your Balls Out. So that's what that was an animation for.
That's so cool, man.
And even has like its theme song and stuff. So it's pretty fun.
And your homie, like, you just hang out with him a lot, or how you just meet up every once in a while?
Yeah, we try to like.
You met him here?
Yeah, he's out here. I met him through a couple of the other friends. Mm-hmm. We had like our own art collective, and then one of our friends in the collective moved to Seattle. Mm-hmm. He was actually one of the original creators of Sick Whales. So Sick Whales was an idea that they had like almost 10 years ago. You know, and there's a very short animatic that already exists on YouTube of it, where it's only like, maybe like a minute long. But they came up with the original idea with Jared as well. And then we expanded upon it. Like we're like, these are great characters. Like, let's make a real show out of them, which is awesome. So he's one of the original creators. He moved to Seattle. And then our other friend who actually started working on To the Pit with us moved to Japan. So I gave him a gift of a full version of To the Pit as a Christmas gift. Me and Jared chipped into it. They always say I'm trying to like take credit for something, because actually Jared, at the time that we ordered the board game, he lent me the money, and then I was the one who like gave it to him. And he was like, "Hey, I paid for that," and I was like, "I'm gonna pay you back."
Yeah. I'm the face.
but no. So it was funny, but yeah, so I met them like as an art collective. We all like joined up together. We were doing a bunch of art shows at the Bixby Knolls Art Walk and stuff like that.
Oh, cool!
For a long time, And then, but once everybody kind of moved away, we had so much like momentum going that I was like, hey, Jared, like, let's just keep working on some stuff. Let's like find some projects, get together. And now we get together like, 3-4 times a week.
Oh,
just
shit.
sit and just work on stuff.
Dude, that's so cool, man. That's cool, especially when you're both trying to build something too. Like, it's an honest collaboration, and it's like it sounds like a lot of fun, dude.
It
just
is.
throwing back and forth ideas and stuff, and it's just
And he's an amazing artist. He's the one who showed me how to paint landscapes, and I've been incorporating them into a lot of paintings. But he's a painting teacher for the city of Long Beach.
Oh, really? Oh, that's dope, dude. Oh, that's so cool, man. Dude, I definitely want to play that game.
Yeah,
Like,
it's actually really fun.
I want to play that game for sure, man. Man, if you're open to it, would your friend want to come down and maybe we can?
Yeah,
let's I got an extra
a 3-play game on that.
Yeah, I got an extra mic. Maybe we can 3-way. I'll figure out. I think I can get another mic, but like over here.
Yeah, I'm 100% down. I'll play a game or two to pick anytime.
Yeah, and do you drink or anything? Yeah. Maybe we can get some beers going and shit.
If I did acid, I mean,
Yeah,
drinking is like.
Well, I don't know. I always ask. Because some people just don't.
Well, it's
like I don't drink really, but I think that game looks like a lot of fun. Like you said, with some drinks inside.
Get a couple drinks. Get a little bit of weed or something.
Yeah.
Do you smoke?
I smoke. Yeah.
Cool.
The only thing I smoke the pens here because my neighbors are little snitches.
It's cool.
I like the pen here, but I haven't honestly since those pens. I don't really like do the actual weed. It's in such a long time.
It actually. You only have to take a couple hits of like the pens.
Yeah, and you're fucking good. And it doesn't smell really like, or if it does, it's very little, and it's like you're cool. You're in the movies. You're watching.
Oh, Jared always gets paranoid. He's like, Jesse, I'm getting the wet lung. I'm getting the wet lung, Jesse.
The wet lung.
Yeah, from the vapors or whatever. Yeah. I'm like, calm down, like probably the 7-Eleven hot dog that we just ate is way worse for us,
Yeah, heartburn and shit.
Some cancer there as opposed to whatever's in this pen.
Have you seen that movie Knives Out?
No, I haven't. I heard it was good.
You should watch it.
Yeah.
You should watch it. It's I've already watched it like 3 times. It's funny. I didn't think I would like it, dude. I thought it was
It's hard for me to get into like it was presented as like kind of a murder mystery or something.
Kind of like a live action Clue. Yeah. That's how I thought it was going to be. That's why I went in there skeptical as fuck.
But it wasn't? It was good?
It's funny, dude. Like if you like kind of mysteries, it's more of a not a big comedy, but like it doesn't take itself too serious, which made it perfect, Like the characters are characters and you can associate it to Clue, but even there's like a line in the movie where he's like, dude, have you seen this guy's house? It's like he's in a Clue board, and it's like, the little meta.
Breaking that, fourth wall.
Yeah, so, I don't know. I recommend it, man. If you got a USB, I can give it to you. I got a really good quality. I don't think it's that big. I think it's under
a USB with me, though.
Yeah.
Next time.
Yeah. Next time. Or,
actually, I lent out my USB to, because I put Sick Whales on there to put on the TV show.
Oh, dope,
because one of my roommates, she does all the editing for Road Dogs TV, and she is, so I had to give it to her, and
so she can,
put it all
format it and all that.
Because, like I said, the last interview that I did was with Jared. We started talking about the TV show.
Okay.
And then now they're gonna have the full thing running as well.
Dope, dude.
So I was really happy too because my one friend, Adrian from Wonth Goods. And he's like one.
Hey, I met that guy.
Yeah.
I met him.
He goes like to the Econ Drinks.
Yeah, I think I met him there.
Yeah, he's a really awesome dude. But he hosted Sick Whales on his website, which is really cool. And then it got put on like a bunch of different like Reddits and stuff like that. So I'm excited. Hopefully, I go home and there's 1,000 plays.
Hell yeah! And you said you just released it yesterday, right?
Just yesterday.
Yeah, I'm gonna share it, man. As soon as I look it up and we're done with this.
So I say hopefully there's 1,000 plays. When I left, there was almost 200 plays. So I'm excited about that. That's not too bad.
Yeah, hell, that's not bad at all. Especially if you just released it yesterday.
Especially since like the main jokes in it are like fisting and stuff like that. I'm surprised, especially when I shared it on Facebook. I was a little bit like, is
this gonna get taken down?
Even more so, like, there's no nudity in it, but like showing it to like my family and stuff like that, I was always like, I wonder who's gonna be like Jesse, this is horrible.
Yeah, you know? For real. No, I thought about that too, especially Facebook, man. Like everybody, like all family members are on Facebook.
Yeah.
Even family members I don't know, and it's like, man, do I really want them seeing, like, especially like when I talk about like psychedelics and all this stuff, like, do I really want? And then after a while, I was like, fuck it. If they have something to say, like, they can talk to me. You know,
even with my tattoos, sometimes I'll have like one random family member who I barely ever talk to, and they're just like, why would someone get that on their body? Why would you disgrace your body like that? And I'm like, why? You took the time to write this, you know, like, who cares?
Some people got too much time in their hands, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Living inside the Facebook.
Right. I've been forced to use it because of the podcast. You know, I didn't really touch my Facebook at all. But now that like I created a page for the podcast, like it's a good way to get like a good chunk of the episodes on there.
Yeah, I've always felt like Facebook was a good way to just show people, like, you know, get people involved in like what you've been working on.
Yeah.
You know, even putting like Sick Whales on it. I have a bunch of people who are like, I want to be a voice on your cartoon and stuff.
So
and
cool.
That was why, like, when like Jared and I were really like working on it, and you know, we spent that 6 months. And we were like, oh, well, we could go get like some other actors for the voices and stuff like that. It was kind of like, why don't we let the content, you know, start bringing people and getting them excited to work on the project with us, you know, like attract more animators with the animation that we're putting out. Don't, you know, set out to like, you know, make it perfect right off the bat. Because if you do, you're never going to release it.
Yeah.
We could nitpick it forever and tear it apart. But it's like, just release it and then
let it develop naturally.
Yeah, let it develop, get more people involved, and then keep producing it.
Yeah. No, I think that's the best way that you went about it. Like that's the great way to go about it. Like if you want to create something and you're gonna not do it until it's perfect, you're never gonna do it.
Right, you'll never finish it.
Yeah, that's why. Like when I started the podcast, I had like a tiny little mic, and my first purchase was a laptop and all this stuff. And I started with that mic, and I shared one mic for a whole year. And I was like, I'm just gonna fucking do it, or else I'm never gonna do it. If I wait till I get a good camera, look at my camera, dude. It's like it's not a crazy camera; it's a webcam.
Well, with all art too, it's kind of like the knowledge is exponential. So it's like by the time you finish a painting, or if you start at one corner of your piece and then start at the like end at the last corner, right? Or this other corner, like by the time you get here, you've learned so much in this time frame,
so much
that this corner doesn't look as good anymore. You know what I mean?
Constantly.
So it's then you go back to that corner, and then by the time you get back over there, then it's like, oh wow, now this corner doesn't look as good as this corner. And if you do that forever, you're never gonna finish something.
Yeah.
So it's like at a certain point, once you get here, it's like, yes, you learned so much in this time frame. But it's like you have to be like, okay, like I can't overanalyze something to the point of where I'm afraid to release it.
Yeah.
You know, just put it out there and let people decide, because the thing is, like, they're not going to be able to tell the difference most of the time. And if they can, they're not going to meet it with disgust. They're going to meet it with, wow, I can see how much you grew.
Yeah. Or they'll even like give you suggestions and stuff like that. They want you to succeed,
right?
For the most part, if they like it.
If they're cool, if they're cool, they want you to succeed. If they're a bunch of haters,
they're gonna talk.
You have a different issue on your hand, dude.
Yeah, you
have a Facebook full of haters.
Dude, I don't know. I think I got lucky because I mean, I'm sure I have haters, but they're not very open about talking shit, I guess. So, I mean, even if they did, I don't think it would matter.
Yeah.
At least to me, I don't think it would matter.
I think there was a Dr. Seuss quote too that said that do and say whatever you want, because those who mind, or those who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't matter.
Don't matter. Yeah.
That's the second time I almost like flip flopped the quote twice. That dude. And like Keanu Reeves.
Hey, that happens to me all the time, man. We've done about, I think it's like 2.5 hours, dude.
All right. Well.
You wanna end it and we can continue, or you want to keep going? I'm just chilling and I'm having fun.
Chilling. I'm just kind of having fun. And
yeah, dude. Same here, man. And
but I know at a certain point you're gonna have to like edit all this. So
yeah. Luckily, since honestly, what I do is I edit the intro and the background. and then I upload it to YouTube unlisted, and then I give you the link. And then if you have timestamps of things you don't want in there, I go in and I take the timestamp off, edit at that point, and then I re-upload. Okay. It takes a little more time, but I like giving people the option to look it over and make sure they didn't say anything that's gonna either get them in trouble or maybe contractually they're not allowed to say certain things. And since the conversation just kind of flows, you don't realize it until you look back into it. So that's usually what I let people do. So I'm gonna send you the link before anybody else, and only you could see it up until I make it public.
Yeah, it's cool, man.
Yeah, but
I'm not worried about it. I feel like I've said everything, been articulate enough, and
and there's nothing you said like, oh shit, it's gonna get me in trouble.
No,
and we're good, man. That's better for me. This way, it makes it so much easier to edit and release it, man. Release it, because I also do the little promos on Instagram to kind of showcase your artwork.
Yeah, well, I'd love to like make sure I like share it and everything too.
Yeah. And I still haven't done live ones. I do the live ones on my own, but I haven't done actual like live ones with another artist. I don't know why.
Like going live on like YouTube or something.
Yeah, going live on YouTube. It's I don't know. I think it's a little harder. I don't know. Well, have you done live stuff?
Not really.
No. Yeah, it's hard, I guess. Well, at least
there's a little more pressure on to make sure that you don't stumble at all.
Yeah, and at least this one, you can edit it if you really like it. What do you think of the top view?
I think it's cool.
Yeah.
I've
gotten some suggestions to actually have like a normal podcast view where it's like cameras on the artist.
Well, you could always have two as well.
Like have one to the artist and one up there, right? Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like I was also thinking of giving people like these little GoPro ones, and then if you want to like get a close up or talk to the camera, you can turn it on and I'll edit that in. It's a little more work, but I think it'll be fun to get like little close ups or play with the camera. Have the artist play with the camera. I've also thought about the whole front view. Yeah,
that's a good camera though. It's a nice webcam.
Yeah, it's a 1080p webcam, but like I said, it's not like those big old Canons or anything, but it's more than enough. Like it's good. It's good quality, especially.
And also, just a couple of those too. You have like another one or something.
Another one up, or maybe I don't know. I'll figure it out.
But I think as far as like the thing that's like the most driving is seeing us work on pieces and having good conversation and
that's kind of what I wanted the focus to be on, and I think the top view forces you to do that. Like you're just looking at this and then listening to people talk.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's cool.
But dude, let's
you have your vision, so
that's
what's your vision?
Yeah, but I'm not opposed to
growth,
the growth and the change. So that's kind of why I like to ask people, hey, what do you think? I like it because it also makes people a little more comfortable. Sometimes people get a little camera shy and they start to like look at the camera and get a little like self-conscious, and I know I do. That's why this view like works good, because all they could see is just like top of my head, not my facial expressions and stuff. But,
sometimes that's where some of the charm is too, though.
I think that's why I'm asking, like, hey, what do you think? Because sometimes the facial expressions do help. It makes it more personable.
The one podcast too I do love watching is the Hot Ones podcast.
Oh yeah, with what's his name?
Chicken wings and everything.
Yeah, dude. It's funny seeing people like try to answer questions while fucking you can just imagine their faces burning.
The one with Gordon Ramsay was like the best.
Oh, he brought all kinds of shit, right? He's like, oh, this
milk
is gonna work.
And the lemon juice and that was great.
Yeah, I like that one. And he just did a recent one. Man, who was it? Oh, the one with the guy, Ant-Man guy?
Oh, yeah. What's his?
I forget his
Paul
name.
Rudd?
Paul Rudd, yeah. Mm-hmm. He did the Hot Ones with him, and man, that guy's funny. There's something about him that makes me laugh so hard. He did like these pictures. He takes these pictures of people, so it looks like they're staring at like a naked person, just based on the angle.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
Fucking hilarious.
There was what movie was he in that was great? Oh, you ever see that Between Two Ferns?
No.
Zach Galifianakis?
No.
It's great. So he did he would do these interviews with like celebrities and stuff like that. A lot of them, they were all like scripted and stuff, but just really, really funny content. And then
I think I've heard of it.
Yeah. And then he came out with a movie that was on Netflix, and he had Paul Rudd on his movie. So it was really good.
And what's the movie called?
It's also Between Two Ferns. The movie. And it's like a behind the scenes of the TV show.
Oh.
So it's really good.
Dude, I gotta check.
But it was also like, it was kind of like meant to be like a fake documentary based on like them making the show.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
that's pretty cool, dude. I like all that stuff, dude. You like movies?
Yeah.
Like I have a segment that I started, and I only have one episode because it's called Primo Movies, and that's primo in Spanish means cousin, and it's a segment me and my cousin do where we watch a movie during the podcast and we draw scenes from the movie.
Oh, that's cool.
But the movie's playing in subtitles with really low sound, so we don't get like the video taken down. But the first one we watched was The Matrix. We didn't even draw. We were so like just talking about The Matrix and like what it reminded us of. But we were thinking like maybe next time, instead of just making random sketches, like maybe map it out a little bit and create like a collage poster, like Indiana Jones type of things, but for the movie we're watching. And then both work on the same poster and like just switch it 10 minutes. Every 10 minutes we switch back and forth. And by the time the movie's done, we should have, pretty finished poster or whatever. Yeah. Would you be interested in doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Dude. All right, awesome. Yeah. Cause I wanna get that segment going, where it's like we're watching movies, and I love watching movies, dude. So I think it'd be interesting to see what we can create, like two artists can create with the movie, But yeah, that'd be dope, dude. If you're down, we'll schedule something.
Yeah, I'm definitely into it. I love it.
What kind of genre do you like?
All sorts of everything. The only thing that, like, of course, like romantic comedies I wouldn't get into, but anything like sci-fi, some horror movies are cool.
I'm down
too.
for a horror movie.
Yeah.
You have any horror movies in mind? Because I'm open to, even if I haven't watched the movie, watch it before and then like get my ideas going and then go into it and watch it again like during the podcast.
Well, some of my favorite horror movies are like Don't Be Afraid of the Dark.
Don't Be Afraid. Oh, is that the one with the blind dude?
No, that's the Del Toro movie. Where it's actually a remake. So there was a movie in the 80s, I think, that he was remaking. But he like kind of took it in that same like
Tooth Fairy one, right? Yeah.
Like the little creatures.
I love Guillermo del Toro. I didn't know that was him though.
That was him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good movie,
dude.
That's one of my favorite horror.
I'm down for that one. You down for that one?
Yeah, I'm down for that.
Yeah,
because I think we could make something real crazy.
Yeah, dude, let's. All right, we figured it out. Yeah, I like Guillermo del Toro movies a lot.
He's huge, like really influenced by Lovecraft. Like he was in the documentary.
I saw it. Yeah,
but he's been trying to make a movie in the Mountains of Madness. Or At the Mountains of Madness. He's been trying to make that book into a movie for like
and
years.
That's a Lovecraft book? Oh, wow.
For years, he's been trying to make it.
One of my favorite movie of his is Crimson's Peak.
I thought that was a great movie.
Right? Like, it's because I think they marketed it wrong. But, like, when you really sit down and watch it, not, like, after the trailers or anything, like, you watch it, like if you watched it now, there's no influence and you never heard about it. You didn't see trailers. You don't remember trailers. You watched it now. It's a good movie for what it is.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, he does have a tendency to get some not great actors. That is a pattern that I've seen. And his humor's not always on point. He's not as funny as he
thinks.
But as far as his composition, and this is when I've talked about that movie in particular, like Crimson Peak as a very shining example. Like, when you say marketing, people were expecting like some sort of like classic horror, kind of like what's popularized, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like a lot of horror movies, and it actually started in the 80s with slasher films, right? You have like an ominous beginning, climax. Then like, it's starting to like build slowly, and then it hits a point where you see the killer, the killer starts really going on a rampage, and then it's just a big chase scene all the way downhill, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a big like apex, like a big triangle, right?
Yeah.
You know, starts low point and then it
Highest
like
climax,
slowly declines,
yeah.
right? After the apex. But with Crimson Peak, or even Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, it's ominously like scary from the beginning, and it slowly builds and builds and builds. And like Crimson Peak, she's starting to uncover things, and you get glimpses of like ghosts right out of the gates. And then it's just scary from like the get-go, but it keeps building and building and building. And then at the end, it doesn't have that like shit hits the fan and then it's just a chase scene, you know, or like any like kind of like accepted horror movie these days. Instead, it just builds up and it just ends on a scary note.
Yeah.
With Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, it like built up to that place where she had been interacting with the characters, the little tooth fairies, and then it keeps going and keeps building until like she's very deathly afraid of them, but it ends even scary. You know, there is no just like decline at the end. It's like he builds it up so compositionally well.
Yeah,
he definitely. I think it's great,
and he has a great visual eye. Like if you hear him talk like in his commentaries about his movies, I don't know if he's a micromanages or whatever, but he thinks about everything in that image, like in what he's showing there, like lighting, colors. Like, oh, I'm not gonna use this color throughout the whole movie until the end, and it's like because that represents this, and it's like, dude, you're giving so much importance to color where other producers or other directors don't really think of that. They have somebody else think of that, but that all blends into the emotions and like what pushes the story. Like sometimes visual colors, tell a story.
Or it makes it into like more of a masterwork where it's like, if you look at like Kubrick or you look at like Hitchcock or something like that, like or even Tarantino, they make extremely smart, deliberate choices. And I mean, like Hitchcock, for example, like in the movie The Birds, I believe, he had to make sure that even like the details of like what beer was in the fridge was from local breweries and things like that, just in case somebody saw it, he was so incredibly meticulous. People like hated him for it. Kubrick, they said he was like a genius, somebody with like over like a 200 like 80 IQ or something, who was like conveying separate messages within the guise of these movies, and they have it actually like people heavily criticize The Shining.
Oh,
right?
okay.
And there was actually a documentary about it, like
why he changed it so much from the book.
Well, how widely like ill received it was, right? And so in the documentary, they actually talk about basically people left the movie theater unsettled because they were like, I hate this. I love Stephen King's, novel. And Stephen King even sued him over it. Damn. That's why it says Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, because by law, he had to change it because Stephen King sued him over it, right? So after seeing the movie. And so Stanley Kubrick, when critics left, they were kind of unsettled, and they're like, a lot of them were like, he came out with 2001 Space Odyssey, already. Like, what is this? And when they started like deciphering it, they saw that he actually had one undertone throughout the whole movie, which was he was using like what we think of as a horror movie, right? Which is, killing, gore, a lot of like anger and violence. He was using that theme to actually tell like the story of like violence and genocide throughout American history, or just world history, where he had the guise of the horror film, the central theme of violence and things like that, and then sprinkled throughout, like in the tins of chewing tobacco, right, in the storerooms were specifically Calumet chewing tobacco, which had the image of a Native American on it, speaking about like using as an Easter egg to sprinkle on genocide of the Native Americans.
Wow.
The pictures in the main lobbies were all pictures that he replaced with images of settlers from the Donner Party and things like that. Or like,
and it progressively goes through time, right? As the movie progresses,
exactly. And when Jack is typing on his typewriter, that's a very specific Adler typewriter that was produced in Germany in the 40s. during the time of, the Holocaust and things like that.
Yeah.
So what he was doing was using this idea of violence that we encounter and view, and then bringing it in like real world examples where genocide have shaped our history.
That's crazy, dude.
So that's like another realm of thinking.
Yeah, he's adding extra layers of, what is it, like, meaning to the objects, not the visual objects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, like another example too is like Alan Moore.
Mm-hmm.
Alan Moore is the very prolific writer. He did like V for Vendetta.
Oh, I love V for
and
Vendetta.
Watchmen and stuff.
I love
like that,
Watchmen.
Right? Yeah. And if you actually have the Watchmen comic and you look at the pages, the Rorschach pages in the graphic novel, they actually are a perfect Rorschach with one another.
Oh.
So it's like a group of maybe like 20 pages or something. And if you hold the pages up from the graphic novel, because books open like that,
So
and
you
then
hold
those pages right up here, and you drop those two pages, they're perfect.
Symmetry on both sides.
Yeah, perfect symmetry, like a Rorschach, right?
Oh.
And then you drop the next two, and they're perfect Rorschach. Next two, and then the final two is like this bloody scene that's like a symmetry, but it's like a bunch of like blood and stuff like that.
Damn, that's really crazy.
Yeah,
dude.
but that's like another realm of like taking the format of something that's widely accepted and then even projecting a new message into it.
Message, yeah.
Or like a whole new realm of thinking for it.
Yeah, and or a different way to look at it, like different, because I bet you the people who found those connections are like, fuck, like, dude, this guy thought of a lot of things, like, have you seen Shape of Water by Guillermo del Toro?
Yeah.
In that movie, he did a lot of the same things, but with like the characters and how they developed, like especially the bad guy. I forget the guy's name, but like how he represented like the guy's sanity based on his fingers and like how they rotted and he rotted, and it's just like that movie is weird to like.
It was underrated for sure.
Yeah. I liked it. I mean, you can take it. Oh yeah, she fish guy, whatever. But it was a fucking story. Yes, exactly. It was a wonderful story. The way he created it, how he added all these old items. Like he sold the time. Like the movie didn't feel like it was made today, representing the old time. It felt like it was made in the past.
Yeah. Well, he also like he loves fairy tales, and it just felt like a fairy tale. But he loves the idea that fairy tales and fairy lore can incorporate itself into our modern day.
Yeah, dude, that's so awesome. He's the only one I can, at least director, I can see him doing that. Do you know of anybody else like trying to do that?
No, I haven't seen anybody who like touches on it each time like that. I think there was one. He was actually what's his name? It's just a one-word name, and he was a director for only a short period of time. But he directed The Fall, and directed The Cell.
Oh, The Cell.
The Cell.
I like The Cell visually.
J-Lo. Yeah, J-Lo. Visually it's great.
Ooh, visually, it's
but
great.
The Fall is really good too. So he was a director who actually directed the first chocolate phone commercials. Remember the chocolate phone? It was like a cell phone that like slid out like this from Verizon or something.
Oh yeah,
it had those commercials.
Oh yeah, I had
like,
a chocolate.
Yeah, where like melted chocolate was dripping on it. He directed those, and then he funded out of his own pocket The Cell and The Fall.
Oh shit! With that money.
With the money. From those commercials.
Oh, that's dope.
He was kind of a weird guy, but like he had a good mix between the fairy tale, especially in The Fall, between fairy tales and reality.
Oh, that's dope. I'm gonna have to check that one out because I really like The Cell visually. I saw the movie very young, so I think a lot of the concepts they were trying to sell I didn't really get. I just was so like tripped out by the visuals and the dark.
Cool. Yeah. There are a lot of plot holes in it, unfortunately.
I assumed, and I mean, I didn't follow the plot very well. I mean, like I said, I was young.
But I mean, everybody except J-Lo was great in it.
I mean, she's at that point she was I don't even know if she's a good actor now, but back then it was the very beginning of her career.
Yeah,
so.
That was an early one,
but yeah, that was. I still remember that fucking when he got up. from the chair. I was like, fuck.
And like everything's attached.
Yeah, and I was like, what the fuck? Like when you really break it down, those are fucking crazy.
Strong visuals.
Yeah, dude. I wish more directors or more movies did. Have you seen the Spider-Man movie? Into the Spider-Verse?
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Fucking love that movie.
Do you know what I didn't like though? What really surprised me was the music. And it wasn't for like, what the style, but production wise, because I've been working on music a lot. I was in a theater and, these were some like 808 kicking songs and there was no 808 to it. Whoever mastered the music for it really messed up.
Okay. See, and I would have never caught that.
You feel that THX boom.
Yeah.
There was no boom. Damn. I was waiting for it. I was like, "Oh, this song."
Especially
especially with like some hip hop songs.
Yeah,
like, you gotta have that 808.
That hit, especially it would have hit with the theater, fucking audio, and then those songs. Like
I felt like that was really weak for some reason, but the movie was awesome.
Dude, I was talking to somebody about this, and I was like, "Man, if they would have made a video game of that shit, like a open world video game of that, it would have been amazing. Because like people could do so much with like that." Art style and cell shading
going in between all of them too.
Yeah, and it's like, dude, you could have expanded so much, added like so much, and like stylized everything, and it would have made a great video game. I think
it would have been expensive though.
I can imagine, but it would have been so good. Yeah, kind of like, have you ever played Hit and Run? The Simpsons Hit and Run?
Yeah.
That game was fun, and it just had shit from the show, and it didn't really take itself serious, but the shit you can do was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any of those open world games.
Yeah. All right, man. I think I'm gonna cut it. It's almost 3 hours, so I think we're good, dude. Invitation's always open. If you're in the area and stuff, dude, let's do another one. Or even if you want to just paint, dude, let's just paint and stuff, and then give me all that info so I can put it in the description.
Cool.
You want to shout outs or anything? Any plugs?
I'm totally down for some shout outs.
Some plugs.
Yeah. So let me see. Shout outs to everybody I mentioned, Jared Blunk, and Sick Whales. Sick Whales Mail Mishap on YouTube. Shout out to Adrian from Oneth Goods. And shout out to the whole Road Dogs TV crew. And then shout out to the whole Ink and Drink crew. Like, they're really, really fantastic.
Yeah, they really are, man. They really are.
Everybody involved, and it's an amazing place to meet other artists and just, get involved in the community.
Yeah, you guys should definitely go. It's a lot of fun. Like you don't realize how fun it is until you go. Yeah, and even if you don't drink, just go chill.
Go chill and draw on some tables.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, thanks, man.
That's all I got. Thank you. Right, thanks so much for having me.
No problem, man. Thank you for coming out. All right. Bye-bye.
Yeah, man. Next time, let's play some To the Pit.